fans watching around the world. This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Let's get straight into the episode.
Yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty got my high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stun.
Alright, before we start, for the fourth time, I need to say something to you that I say to everyone that comes on, but I would not be saying it if it was not true. You're sitting here because I find you interesting, and that's because you genuinely are an interesting person. I want to learn more about you, how you think, and how you feel, and I love that I have the opportunity to share this experience, so I really appreciate you coming over for the fourth time. I thank you for sitting down for the fourth time, and ladies and gentlemen, this man has genuinely been a role model for me in my life. He has not only mentored me with fighting from a young age as a teenager, but also taught me many life lessons along the way, and I'm constantly learning off him. That's why I'm very happy to be sitting down and shooting the episode 1 for the fourth time. And this is Adam, as I call him, Kadir, but that's not his real last name.
No, my real last name is Savaşçı, which is, it's Turkish for belligerent or warrior.
Nice.
People hear about my interests and what I do and my hobbies and all that sort of thing, and how I grew up, and they immediately go warrior is appropriate. But my wife's quite mad about it being belligerent.
I don't even know what belligerent means. What's belligerent?
Belligerent is someone who is militantly stubborn.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's not just that you're saying no, but you're saying no and you're making a big deal out of it. Like,
there's no budging from that no.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, great.
Fun times.
Let me just address for everyone the elephant for the intro for everyone. This is our fourth time sitting down, all right? First time, we probably got a little bit too drunk, right? Especially because we were just getting used to the internet. Second time, hard drive shit himself. Third time, I take responsibility. Fourth time, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, we're doing it again. I'm happy to do it. It's fun.
It is fun.
You have a good conversation every time. It always comes out different. And
yeah. It was like the first few times, it's like I wanted to follow this transcript that I write out for everyone. Now I'm getting to a stage now where I don't want to do that anymore. I'm just happy just to yarn, bro.
Well, you know, you have an understanding on who you're inviting onto the show, and you and I have had this chat before about long-term goals and projections for what you want to do on this podcast. And even if you were going to go down that road, you'd want to, like, you're inviting certain guests because you want, like, you think that they have something to say. And so naturally you'd want to do a little bit of homework. You'd want to just have a couple points of like, look, let's just talk shop for the next 90 minutes. But, you know, there's at least like 3 things I want to ask you about, and if we want to talk shit for the remainder of that time, then you know, you let it flow naturally. Yeah. But you know, you're probably right that we maybe shouldn't follow a script. It wouldn't be very believable.
Well, I had a bloke on. So this will come out next week. So the following week, which for our time comes out tomorrow.
Yeah. And
we sat down, and I literally knew nothing about him. Like he was a mutual friend through someone else, and I bought a painting off him 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
I've still got the painting. I'll show you after. It's beautiful. But that's why it was like
Caravaggio slaughtering himself, or Saturn eating his son.
It was like he describes it was like Adam, the original depiction of Adam meeting God for the first time with the 2 fingers, the ancient Christian photo painting. But he mixed it up and chucked about 5 religions into the one. And then when I seen a couple symbols I really liked. I didn't even understand the message behind it. And I said, do you mind incorporating this into more of a yin-yang painting and then adding these symbols that I'm interested in? And then it came out.
Throw in curveballs like Ahura Mazda and...
I don't know what that is.
This is... All right, there's a religion from the Middle East from way back in the day, and it's still technically around. It's called Zoroastrianism.
I've heard of Zoro, yeah.
Yeah. Got some beautiful artwork and iconography, and you know, anybody who considers themselves culturally Assyrian or genealogically they've got some Assyrian in them or whatever, they usually take on this sort of those sorts of images. It's all over Iran and stuff like that. But what I love about Zoroastrianism is that it's complicated if you want to get into it, but the base level, it makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. You got Ahura Mazda. He's the good guy. We like Ahura Mazda. Mm-hmm. He's all of life and justice and glory and goodness and all that sort of thing. And his opposite is Anjamayu. And he's the opposite. He's darkness and evil and violence and all that sort of thing. And basically, your actions in life depend on if your soul is the good guy or the bad guy. And when you die, your soul joins the battle between good and evil. And I'm like, that's the most metal shit. It's so simple. It's beautiful. Like
That is the dopest religion I've ever heard. And it makes sense. Like, it's all picked from the same tree, you know what I mean? All religions have their premises that kind of come down to good and evil.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know, there's something called a theogony, right? Every religion has something where it fails pretty significantly, because even if they're ordained by God and God gives you the message to man, man is still imperfect, and that comes out imperfect, and then people are dicks and people are power hungry and all that sort of thing. But most religions have one core problem, and that core problem, for example, in Catholicism, is like the problem of evil. Why does evil exist? Yeah. Is Satan the biggest dick in the prison, or is Satan the warden? Like, which one is he? Because if he's the warden, he's the good guy, and if he's the king shit prisoner, he's the bad guy. Like, and you know, if God is benevolent, omnipresent, omnipotent, then, you know, why is it still around? Yeah. That's the problem of evil. And the rest of Catholicism, if you do the reading into the historiography, if you look into the context, if you look into why certain things were written in the original language they were written, like Aramaic or ancient Greek, it makes a lot of sense. Like, the whole thing about the no homo in Catholicism is total crap. It got written in Aramaic, and then when it was transcribed into ancient Greek, because the ancient Greeks basically had a free love policy, and they had concepts of mentorship where men would take on younger men and they'd more or less abuse those men and then try to mold them into what would make an ideal man for society. The rule ended up being man shan't lie with man, or man shouldn't lie with a younger man, because it was that they were trying to like enforce this like stop fucking kids sort of thing. And basically just over time that gets warped into no man on man relationships instead of no man on child relationships and that sort of thing. Because throughout most of like medieval Europe, homosexual relations with monks were acceptable by the church.
I've read about that.
And you know, it's one of those like, oh well, if you can't make kids, then you're really not fulfilling your purpose. However, like, look, you're stuck in a monastery in the middle of nowhere.
Well, you're in someone else's purpose if that's your purpose, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not your purpose, it's someone else's
but,
purpose.
You know, the point is, trying to resolve the problem of evil is a theogony, right? And...
Well, I talk about that on here a lot. I said, if you find $50 on the floor, someone lost $50. You know what I mean? Like, everything is yin-yang, everything.
How Taoist of you.
Yeah, what's that mean?
No, Taoist, that's the origin of the yin-yang.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right? So that little bit of dark and the light and all that sort of thing, the moon and the sun. But you know what? So my wife has joined like services and all that sort of thing, and she's a super nerd.
Super nerd. That's a great word.
That's why she got hired. She got hired because they sat there and went, "Hey, you got perfect scores on a language test. Certain federal agencies can use people like you who can do problem-solving skills and speak multiple languages and do X, Y, and Z and pass certain security clearances. Would you be interested in a sick job? But we would have to take you away for a little bit to do all of your training." And so I can't see her at the moment. It's fucking killing me, bro.
And what? Can she talk about what it is her job is to do?
Well, she.
What is this? What do you mean by services?
You know, like read between the lines in that. You know, the biggest asset that she has is problem solving and speaking multiple languages. And so she's working with federal groups, and
wow.
You know, we've been covering. Generally speaking, we're going on about how she works for DFAT, and literally anybody who with access to Google knows that she's not working for DFAT, but. Whether she ends up working on the military side or whether she ends up working on the intelligence side, she's working somewhere in that sphere.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so they've taken her away because they're basically going to like cram Mandarin into her brain in like a short period of time. So,
wow.
I can't, you know, she's expected to master Mandarin, and then they want to push her to potentially learn Russian and all that sort of stuff. So,
damn.
But you know.
She sounds like a super nerd, eh?
Nah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
But point is, so she's in a room with a whole bunch of other people who, you know, some of them are super nerds and some of them are specializing in other things and all that sort of shit. And so she's like, oh, you know, naturally some of the guys here wanted to know about you. And I went, oh, fuck, that could really go one of two ways, eh? And And she's like, yeah, so what do you think I told them? And I'm like, bro, it could have gone either way. Either you're selling me as this like gentleman scholar who's uni educated and likes to read Hemingway and can talk about God and all that sort of stuff, or you've gone way off the other side and I'm basically like, I'm 2 orders above being a dog in Guildford and I'm slinging punches and shooting guns and like I have no idea which way you sold me to these guys.
What's those 2 ancient words you use for like good guy or bad guy?
Ahura Mazda or Anjamaya.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Which one am I?
Yeah, very cool. You said to me off camera a couple things actually. Now, obviously, I want to get to how we met. I want to talk about some of your history when it comes to self-defense and things like that. But we've done it a few times now, all right? I want to get to for what is for me juicy information, all right?
Yeah.
You said today that you were out training someone shooting. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've taught quite a few people just their 101s on how to shoot. I work on farm properties, but I also do competition long range shooting and long rifle shooting. So I'm doing bench rest comps, rimfire comps. I want to do a field shoot soon. But when I go up to it, it's not really a comp if I'm up in the mountain somewhere. But the last time I was up there working on property, basically, I worked my ass off for a few weeks, and then I turned to my father-in-law and I was like, "Yeah, do you mind if we like move that steel target out? Because before, he's only got one fucking eye. Like the steel target's like 70 meters away, so you're basically standing right in front of it once you get a rifle, and so that's where he wants to shoot the target. And whenever one of his daughters has come out or something like that, she's like, oh, can I take a shoot? And she doesn't know anything about guns, so she wants to stand right in front of that target when she pulls the trigger. Yeah. But I'm like, man, this is nice and all because you pull the trigger, you hear a ping, but like, I really need to stretch the legs out. I've got a mad rifle, and I've put a lot of love and time and money into this thing, and I've developed all of I make my own ammunition and all that sort of shit. Oh, yeah. And so once I was done working with him, I just went, look, man, I just want a weekend where I can go out and shoot. I've brought 200 rounds of ammo. I just want a couple days where I can really stretch the legs of this thing and get some practice in. And so he's like, yeah, sure, not a problem. So we grabbed the steel target, we chuck it in his Ranger, and we just move it literally out of the paddock and into another paddock. And so I'm sitting on the hill over the first fence. There's the whole paddock in the way, and then there's the target. And so I'm shooting over the hill into this target, and
hear any dings?
Yeah, well, no, actually, I got a video. I'll send it to you, man.
Nice.
But I flip my shit, man. I've never seen a scorpion in the wild in Australia.
Oh wow, I didn't even know we had scorpion.
I hear scorpion, and I think the same shit that everybody else thinks. You think Africa, you think Mexico, you think somewhere that's got some fucked up scorpion, and you drain the venom to make ayahuasca or something. I have no idea. That's what you're thinking of, you know. And I set up camp on the side of this hill. I pull out my tarp and I make a shade and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like clearing the ground where I'm supposed to be sitting. And, I'm not afraid of spiders. I like them. I think they're pretty cool. So I lift up a rock and there's a big fucking huntsman. I kind of shoo him away a little bit. And he gets under a rock and he sticks his legs out and flick him. Yeah. I'm like, you can stay. Yeah. You just got to be on like that side of the fucking... That's so cool. And so I set up my shooting position and I'm sitting down, the rifle's up, and I've been doing
That's humble. I probably would have smashed that spider. Like,
do you have any idea how passive huntsman
I was listening
to
you and I'm thinking that's sick, and I realised that's not me.
You gotta properly, like really properly provoke a huntsman to make it bite you. They are so passive and they're so chill.
I ain't taking that risk of provocation, bro.
Well, and I'm getting to that bit, right? Like, so I stack up 3 stones, and I got ballistics textbooks, right? Literal, proper fucking engineering textbooks on ballistic projectiles and that sort of thing. And I've read through these books. And one of the things I've been practicing is high angle shooting, right? So I'm not going to get into the details because it's boring as fuck. Okay. But basically, extreme angles throw off your shot. And so it's a real skill to practice. And there's no course that teaches it because it's a military course. But like it's science. So you can just get the textbook and teach yourself if you're so inclined, and people do that.
Yeah, nice.
So I got textbooks, reading the textbooks and learning about internal ballistics, external ballistics, intermediate actions and chain reactions and Coriolis and Magnus drifts and gyroscopic tractability and all that crap.
All these words, I'd have no idea what they mean yet.
Big, fancy, wanky engineering words that don't mean anything. You know, I skip over the mathematical formulas and I read the theory and then I take it to practice. And we got calculators now, you know? And so I'm practicing high angle shooting because I'm sitting on this hill and this target is is suspended on a tree hanging over a creek, and then there's a whole bit of distance in the way. And so anyway, I've set up on these rocks, and as I'm trying to get comfortable and try to get into this fucking position, the bit that I'm sitting on is rocking back and forward, and I'm like, I want a steady position. I don't want my floor to rock. And so I get up and I grab my knife and I lift up the fucking bit that I was sitting on because I see a little bit of exposed plate, and so I'm like, well, if it's rocking, the plate must be loose. I lift up the plate and the fucking scorpion just literally just lunges out. I fucking shat myself, bro. My gun is so expensive. I flip that bastard in the air and I'm like doubling back away from the fucking scorpion. And I'm like, you gotta be shit in this country. And you know, fucking kill the fucking scorpion. I'm like, I'm done. I'm taking no chances.
Sweet.
Fucking kill that scorpion. I kicked it into this ditch, like in between these like two large rocks. I'm shoving more rocks into that ditch, filling it with dust. I'm like, fuck that scorpion.
Fuck, bro. I don't think I've ever seen a scorpion, and now that I think about it, never in my life have I seen a scorpion.
I've seen them at like reptile parks and stuff like that, but at the Stockland Mall in Borkham Hills, there was a woman doing a reptile show, and so she brought this baby freshwater crocodile, which she had to tape his mouth shut and everything because this bastard kept biting people. And that was pretty sick to like pet him. And then she's got in all of these little glass containers a whole bunch of different like spiders and centipedes and stuff like that. And all these kids running up and banging on the glass and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, that's one of these and that's one of these. And like, oh, why don't you come over here and pet the shingleback lizard or the blue-tongued lizard or something?
Nice.
And then, you know, after all these kids left, I'm a toddler that's 6 foot tall. I basically run over, I'm touching the crocodile, I'm poking the lizard. And,
tapping the glass.
and in the last glass, she's got a straight up tarantula, like a proper big, like hair spitting monster.
Yeah.
And I went, is that seriously what I think it is? And she's like, oh, that's this specific type of tarantula. And I'm like, no way. And she's like, you can touch it if you want. I'm like, can I? And she's like, oh, I'm going to hold to the glass on one hand. Put your hand out. And she's got the glass like that. And then she has her hand on the other side. And so I've got my hand like that. And she literally tips this tarantula onto my hand. Bro. It walks over my hand onto her hand. And then she just tips it back into the glass.
What? Can they bite you?
They absolutely can, and they've got monster fangs, but they don't have a whole ton of venom.
Okay.
So it'll hurt because they've got these monster fangs. But like they kill mice and birds. They don't like envenomate stuff and with a neurotoxin and kill it that way. You know, it's not like a funnel web or something.
There's like two types of venoms, isn't there? There's one that's just for pain, and there's one that can kill you. Is that true?
Yeah, I think so, but I'm not.
Might be one of those.
Super sure on it.
Damn, I wouldn't fucking... I don't know if I'd probably do it. I just don't think I'd be a fan of that, eh?
Yeah. Well, I was... you know, my roommate is arachnophobic. And my missus, she likes spiders, but she don't want to touch one.
Yeah.
And...
yeah, she likes Spider-Man.
And so I came back and I'm like, bro, like, you should have seen it. I got this tarantula ran across my hand, and they were like, what? And I went, it's the weirdest feeling because it's hairy but sharp. And I'm just watching these people like... as they like walk away.
Yeah, it's sick.
But yeah, look, I'll send you the video of me shooting on property. But yeah, there's been quite a few times now where I've been at the gun range and there's guys there who, you know, they've got their license, they've got a mate who's got a property, or they want to do a competition or something like that, and they just don't know anything about guns. And you don't know what you don't know, so you don't necessarily know what to look up to learn. But also, not everybody is inclined to do homework, and that's fine, I suppose. But me personally, I'm feeling like if you're going to own a firearm, especially in a country like this where that's such an emotional and heated topic, that you really want to be a good ambassador. You want to know your shit. You want to know how guns work, and you want to have all of that stuff in the bag. Even if you're just going to go out and hunting, at least have like a cursory understanding on how they operate.
I think you're just genuinely a curious person, though, just what I know of you. Like, you pretty much dive into research for anything that you find interesting anyway,
Yeah, well, I mean, you know.
Not everyone is like that.
But life's too short, man.
Yeah.
Like, life is like, I don't want to get to the end of the road and go, all right, you know what I've mastered? I've mastered tiling, Star Trek, and having kids. And you're like, that's it? You had 73 years on this earth and that's what you came away with? Like...
Good examples. Good examples. Because I'm actually not even a beginner at any of them.
I got told once that by the time you turn 18, you're an expert in at least one thing. And that one thing is not always useful. Yeah. Sometimes you're only an expert in World of Warcraft. Yeah. Sometimes you're only an expert in finding porn. But, you know, everybody is an expert in something. You've followed your dad in his business, and you've basically had a 6-year leg up on any tradie out there who's getting in at 16 to 18. Or, you know, you've made it to 18 and you've been swimming for 7 years, and you're functionally a very high level swimmer. You might not feel like you're a high level swimmer, but relative to the rest of the population that basically learned what breaststroke was and then gave it up, like you're high level. And that's just the case, you know. And you get teenagers with abstract interests, and they're like, well, I'm gonna read a lot about like just like Charles Darwin or whatever. And you get to 18, you're an expert in Charles Darwin. You're not an expert on his works. You're not an expert on Albert Wallace, who actually did all of the field work behind Charles Darwin's research. Like, you don't know any of that, and you couldn't care less. And you're not an expert on Christianity or anything like that. You just really like having atheist debates. But what you're an expert in is like shit stirring on Reddit, and then knowing biographical facts about one niche scientist from back in the day. And like, but that makes sense. But that's what you're the expert in. And you know, you get guys who are mad into gym, and you know, they turn 18 and all of a sudden they've been in the gym 4.5 years. But when you're in high school, you literally have nothing to do. So that's what you're looking at on your phone. That's what you're watching on YouTube. That's what you're reading on Reddit. That's what you're doing, whatever. So you get to 18 and you've already made all of your beginner mistakes, and you've got a pretty fucking good idea of what you're doing. So, you know, it's one of the things I got told. And like, you're going to become an expert in something, anything. It's going to be at least one thing. Maybe it's a whole bunch of things. But, you know, I think the moment you stop learning, you die.
Well, I just heard a quote. The moment you stop growing, you die. The moment you stop growing, you die. And that's in reference to learning.
Hell, Muhammad Ali ended up saying that the man who sees the world at 30 the way he did at 20 has just wasted 10 years of his life. It's the same concept. And I don't know. I'm fascinated by things.
I'm with you on that, bro. Like, I want to absorb as much as I possibly can. It's something that I'm talking on this podcast about all the time. And I'm trying to juggle at the moment between whether, because you know the old saying, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master or something?
I've heard that a lot,
I'm curious whether I want to spend because I did the maths on it. I'm pretty sure, I just did it while I was driving, so I could be completely off. But I think roughly 8 hours a day, 5 days a week would take you like 30 years to hit those 10,000 hours.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Let's work it out now, because I'd like to actually know that. I'd actually would like to know. Let's go. I've got the calculator right here.
But it's definitely something that I'm invested in. So I see these people at the gun range, and they got no idea about what they're doing, and so I try not to be bullish about it. You know, there's no point in trying to teach someone who doesn't want to learn. And you know, I'll just ask them if I can take a look. I'll ask them do you guys want a tip? Do you guys like? You know, and you know, one of the things I'll say is like, hey, look, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to make an assumption about what you know and what you don't know, but like, you understand what actually happens on the inside of a firearm when you pull the trigger, right? Or like, you understand your 4 fundamentals. And you're like, if you do, great, tell me and I won't tell you, and then we can skip to a more complicated subject. But like, if you don't, you're not going to learn unless someone sits down and shows you. You know, or teaches it to you. And, you know, I've taught a lot of martial arts. And,
I think that's where it comes from. I think that's where your inquisitive to go back to basics comes from, because everyone wants to be a pro fighter, but first you got to do that dragon stance every single day.
We were like,
and sorry to cut you off, but it takes 5 years.
Yeah, like
5 years, yeah.
But you know, we sat there at a boxing gym a few weeks back, and we're watching someone who is like really struggling with just his basic cross footwork. You know, forward, back, left, and right. He's almost got it. He's like this far away from like getting forward, back, left, and right, and he's trying.
And is that just without punching, or is that while throwing combos? Like can he actually step, or is he like doesn't have that coordination?
Look, I wasn't paying too much like that level of detail. It was more just shocking to go. We're still doing basics. We're still doing basics. We're going forward, back. We're going forward, back. We're going left, right, and then I'm watching him try to do a Superman punch, and I'm like. Oh man, like
this man never played hopscotch, bro.
Like you gotta tie your hips to your shoulders before you start to try doing Superman punches, man. But that happens a lot. Like I was at a Krav gym and I'm watching dudes who've never done combat sports before. And Krav's great for learning how to think. And it's great for learning how to make plans. It's great for learning how to strategize and have tactics and just the knowledge base on like, hey, what happens when you get stabbed? Well, we're an expert on what happens when you get stabbed. But they just don't have...
Does it also include like the post getting stabbed, or is it just like this is what happens? Avoid it.
It does at high level. It doesn't at low level. Because at low level, the concept is call the police, call an ambulance, assume you survive.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of they just don't have the time, they don't have the resources to actually teach people how to fight. And so you need to go do something where they give you the techniques and you can marry those techniques to the tactics that they give you. But, you know, I'm at a Krav gym, I'm watching someone who very clearly has only learned how to fight in Krav, and they haven't learned how to fight in any sort of specialization. There's no taekwondo, there's no karate, there's no boxing, there's no Muay, there's no nothing. There's just what Krav has managed to show them. And hey, look, kudos to you that you make the best out of what you got. You make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Like,
yeah.
You know, some training's better than no training, some fitness is better than no fitness. But I'm watching this guy who's super flat-footed, who all of his technique is like it's not.
Is it defensive?
It's not bad, but it's not right.
I can't imagine it being defensive. Is it very defensive?
No, it's mad aggressive because the idea is you want to overwhelm and escape.
Yeah.
Most people aren't expecting you to go forward in confrontation. They're expecting you to go back. And so you go forward and then you get out of there. And, but like I'm watching him try to do back kicks. And I just sat there and I'm like, but no one has ever taught you to pivot on your feet. Like ever. And no martial art you've done, East or West, has taught you how to pivot because you haven't done one.
Yeah.
Boxers teach you how to pivot.
Yeah.
Kung Fu guys teach you how to pivot. Judo guys teach you how to pivot, and you've never done it because this is a gym that is teaching you that if someone's trying to attack you with a bat, try to see it coming, try to avoid it, and if you've got to deal with it, be the bigger dog, and you know, try to defend yourself, get out of there. Protect your mate, your kid, your woman, your whatever, and
I love Krav. It's such a beautiful idea. You know what I mean? Like it's just try and make it home. That's it.
It's built out of security footage. You know, it's built out of body cam footage. It's built out of like reports from the military about what works and what doesn't work, and it originated back in the 70s with Imi Lichtenfeld and El Yanilov as functionally speaking MMA, but if we don't want to compete. And you know, it was this Imi was Lichtenfeld. I want to say that Imi was like a Jewish Austrian guy or something, but I'm probably way off. And all of my coaches would be very upset with me that I don't know his whole life story.
Yeah.
But basically, like Imi and El were going, hey, look, boxing sometimes works, and this is the time it doesn't work, and wrestling sometimes works, but this is the time it doesn't work. And, you know, when someone has a knife, you know, when we frame like this, the knife can't cut us. And they basically just keep trying. They just kept slowly putting it together over like 30 years, you know. But the idea was always, what is the most functional, practical, statistically relevant way of fighting to keep you alive and to do the job? And then we're going to teach military. And from military, we're going to teach police. And
How did they get to convincing military to do it? Like, if it was such a new idea that had no real fundamentals, like, how did they sell the idea to a military instead of like a traditional Japanese style of military or American style of military?
Well, there's conscription, so everybody's exposed to the military. Everybody knows someone who knows someone, but this was during the big boom of martial arts. The 60s, 70s, and 80s where you had all of these action films of everybody, like...
Especially Kung Fu and stuff like that. Yeah,
but, you know, it was the era of Bruce Lee. It was the era of Jackie Chan. It was the era of blaxploitation films where every black superstar knew karate. And it was also the time of, you know, Bullshido, where like everybody makes their own martial art and they're an expert, and this martial art was taught by ninjas and all that sort of thing. But Imi and Ial were training in public and with as many different people and as many different weapons as possible. And I couldn't say exactly how they ended up in a military contract, but I imagine that word of mouth spread at a time where it was quite trendy.
Yeah, okay.
Especially if it is so public, especially if you do have connections, especially if your gym is popular.
Do they have and by the way, Imi Lichtenfeld was Hungarian-Israeli.
There we go.
Israeli. Did they
I said Austrian. They border. They were the Austro-Hungarian Empire. That was a thing once upon a time. It fucking counts.
Yeah. I'll give you that one. I was curious, did they have any prior martial art experience themselves? Like, how did they learn?
They were doing boxing. They were doing wrestling. They did a lot of the classical arts, I think, before they ended up taking on anything foreign.
Okay.
Because classical arts are available everywhere. You know? I've been doing a mad deep dive into like Silver Age boxing. I don't even know if it's Silver Age, Bronze Age boxing. Like, we're talking early 1900s boxing.
Wow.
You know, the guy that made the jab an actual technique was a dude named Joe Gann.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just one of those, like, the jab is so fundamental. Like, it's the
where was this guy from?
America. He was a black dude in the States.
Okay.
And Joe Gann basically figured out a jab and actually used it like a jab. So back when you had guys boxing like this, because most of your punches landed on the body, you know, they're shuffling around each other, and it's almost every technique is just across from a squared position. And Joe Gann was this athletic black dude that basically skate around people, and he just pop them with the first one on this lead arm, and he'd kind of wear them out and create some openings. And like, that was revolutionary. And that was literally 120 years ago.
Yeah.
And we sit there, and if you do any martial art, if you box, if you do Muay, if you do whatever, like...
It's the most important weapon.
How do we start? Oh, this is your first day ever in the gym. You've never put on a pair of gloves. You've never done a push-up. You know what we're going to teach you? We're going to teach you how to do a jab.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to learn how to do a jab.
Yeah.
Oh, and this dude's a world champion. And you know what this world champion is doing on Monday?
Jabs.
He's practicing his jabs. He's practicing his jabs with everybody else in this fucking gym.
Yeah.
And is that boring? Yes, it's boring. He's done 7 million jabs in his life. He's going to do 7 million more.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
that's how fundamental it is. And Joe Gans was the guy that figured it out.
Yeah.
Like 120 years ago.
Yeah.
Humanity's been punching themselves in the face and punching other dudes in the face for what, 250,000 years, whatever it is. We've had human civilization for anywhere from 8 to 12,000 years, depending on what conspiracy theory you like the most. And
I think, to be honest, I'm going to chuck in more. I'm going to say way more than that, yeah.
But, you know, well, you're what's his face? Ivan Velikovsky, you're a catastrophist.
Yeah, I am.
I'll teach you some shit about that later. But, you know, what's the earliest evidence of like a human ancestor? It was like a jawbone they found in Greece from 250,000 years ago. It like predated the last earliest jawbone, which was like sub-Saharan Africa, and that was 216,000 years ago, whatever it is. And so it's like, bro, that's how long. Like, monkeys are killing each other right now. They haven't even evolved to make fists, and they figured it out. And like, last 100 years we worked out a jab. Like,
we had the most progressive species day.
So, you know,
when you put it like that,
I'm a big fan of Sonny Liston, the boxer, you know, the great intimidator. And so I was trying to figure out Sonny Liston's jab. You know, people know Sonny Liston for, you know, his loss to Muhammad Ali, and they know Sonny Liston for his mafia associations. They know Sonny Liston for being terrifying. Like Mike Tyson said, "Oh, people were afraid of me. I'm afraid of him." Like,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Wow.
it's some next level. Like, he was the greatest intimidator to exist in boxing, and legitimately one of the hardest punchers ever. Like,
Wow.
you go through the list of like hardest punchers where you're like, there was Ron Lyle, there was Ernie Shavers, there was Joe Frazier, there was Sam Langford. I'd put Sam Langford at like higher than Joe Frazier, but point is Sonny Liston is somewhere in that list of meanest punchers to walk the earth. And so people like to talk about his cross, and they like to talk about his hook. And every now and again, you'll have like a boxing aficionado going, "Oh, he had a punishing jab. He had a really punishing jab." And so I started watching literally just whatever fights we could find of Sonny Liston, because, you know, they're all basically in black and white except for like the Ali ones and that sort of thing. And he had just this really interesting way of doing a jab that's just a savage, and it's almost done backwards.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to work it out, and so I've been constantly going over this Liston jab. And it's really messing up my rhythm, because I'm not Sonny Liston. I don't fight with Liston's rhythm, but I figure if I can change my rhythm. There was a guy named Joe. Fuck, I can't remember his last name. It's some crazy Italian last name like Cavaccio or something. But if I find out, I'll let you know. But this Joe guy, what he could do is he could literally change his rhythm on the fly, and the way his dad would coach him how to box was that he would be creating music in the ring instead of following music in the ring. And so, you know, all of the different techniques and movements that you could make in boxing, if they can be done in a fight, they can be done to a dance, and if they can be done to a dance, they can be done to music. And so as he'd move around the ring, he would naturally create this rhythm. And as an evolving song over anywhere from 3 minutes to 45 minutes, he'd be playing this song in his head, and it would change his rhythm constantly against his opponent. And so his opponent would be sussing him out for a couple of verses, and then it'd change.
Yeah.
And then he'd be sussing him out again, and then it'd change.
Wow.
And it would drive people mad. He was a really successful boxer because of it. And I sat there going, look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm him, but if I can figure out a way to have like a steady rhythm, and then and try to swing the pendulum the other way and shatter my opponent's rhythm, that'd be an effective strategy to kind of to manipulate your opponent and try to control them as you move around the ring. And I don't think that any fighter or any athlete should sit there and intellectualize on what their strategy should be, because ultimately strategy goes out the window when you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
It's all the practice you do all day, every day that really makes it.
Yeah, it's the cues and the habits and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
And so I went, well, look, let's see if I can figure out the Liston jab, because if I can figure out the Liston jab, then I can find a way to incorporate it. But let's make sure I can do it first before I start talking to people about, like, you know, how do I fit it?
Yeah.
Or how do I tie it to a kick? How do I tie it to a single leg? How do I make something like that happen? But I've been on a mad deep dive to all of the original boxers, all of like the first guys of the 1900s. So like Jack Johnson and Sam Langford and Joe Louis and that sort of thing. Floyd Patterson and oh fuck, Sam Langford is such a G. He was a little dude that people were so afraid of fighting him because of how hard he hit, that this little guy had to fight heavyweights and light heavyweights and cruiserweights.
Oh wow.
And it was just unbelievable that he'd straight up knock him out.
Wow.
And Langford, not only did he like punch like a Sherman tank, it was the most ridiculous thing. Each fist was a 105mm shell.
Yeah.
But he had this incredible innate gift of judging and controlling distance in a fight. So he just could do it better than you. He just knew how far your footwork would allow you to reach, and he could be on the outside, the inside. He could be further, closer, left or right, based on what you're doing, and he knew where to be in order to land one of his artillery shell fists.
Yeah.
And he just put people out.
Yeah.
And eventually, no one in America would sign him for a fight, and he wanted to fight Jack Johnson, and Jack Johnson straight up refused.
Yeah.
And he was like the champ at the time. And so he had to go to Europe to fight instead because just no one in America, none of the little people would fight him. He's knocking out heavyweights, and the heavyweights stopped wanting to fight him because they didn't want to be embarrassed by being taken out by a little guy.
Yeah.
And so he's going around Europe just like smashing dudes in every country. And eventually he ended up fighting some German fucking Bob Sapp looking guy. And yeah, he destroyed his eye. He punched him so hard that he basically Michael Bispinged him. And he just went blind in that eye. And he still won fights for like the next 10 or 15 years. He comes back to America with one eye and a bunch of scars, and everybody's like, fuck, I can take this one-eyed little man. And then he just let him get close, and then he drop one of them 105 shells, and you're like, lights out, bro. You just got beaten by a little cripple. Like
he literally put up in the disabled spot on the way there. Wow, what a G, bro.
Yeah, look up Sang Langford when you get the chance. He was amazing, man.
Wait, what era is this?
Oh, we're talking like early 1900s.
Oh, fuck, bro. Wow. So there's not even video footage of any of that shit.
Not a Sam Langford, not that I know of, but a lot of people say that Sugar Ray Robinson is the greatest boxer of all time because Sugar Ray had something like 200 fights, 170 wins, and like 10 draws or something.
Wow.
And, this is someone who fought every other week for years. But the craziest thing is there is still some stitched together footage of Sugar Ray, and he legitimately looks like a modern boxer.
Wow.
And what I love about that is in the sphere of martial arts, you have conversations about if we took a modern martial artist and we dumped him in 1500 BC Thailand, how would he do? And you get a lot of these purists who are in love with the mythology of martial arts and the culture of martial arts, and they're like, no, things were different back then. That Thai guy from 1500 BC, he's fucking doing flying knees on tigers and shit. He's elbowing mud bricks into houses. He's like smashing bronze weapons with his head. And like, you're like, there's no way a modern fighter would keep up. And you're like, bro, modern science when it comes to recovery, modern science when it comes to technique. Like,
that's a good debate. That's a good question. I don't know what I would choose.
But that's the thing. You watch Sugar Ray Robinson, and he looks like a modern fighter in like 1910 or something. And all of a sudden, it makes sense why he's got 170 wins.
Yeah.
Because he's fighting dudes that have only figured out that we go from this to this.
Yeah.
Like he's in that era.
Yeah.
We've just discovered the jab, and now it's fringe science to have a high guard. Here you've got Sugar Ray fucking skating backwards, throwing uppercuts.
Damn. So you're more on the argument of like we would kick ass nowadays.
No, we'd 100%. And look, I think ancient fighters would be tougher, but that just means the ass beating is going to take longer.
Yeah.
I think that there's techniques and tactics that are lost to history.
Yeah.
And I think that the rules of the engagement will shape the outcome of the engagement. Muay Baran, for example, is Muay Thai before Muay Thai got civilized. So back when Thailand was called Siam, a whole bunch of white people came to Thailand and went, "Hey, prove to us that you're one of the good ones." And the king of Siam puts on a bunch of Muay Thai fights where people are getting their jaws broken and they're losing eyes and they're getting cut and their limbs are getting shattered, people are dying. And basically all the white people went, "What is this gladiatorial bullshit? I don't want to see people die. You're barbaric." In my country, boxers have gloves and they wear shorts and all that sort of shit. And so the king of Siam, he like sanitized Muay Baran into Muay Thai. He's like, no, we're gonna make it like boxing, but we're gonna make it like Thai boxing, and we're gonna have gloves. We're gonna get rid of some of the techniques. No more arm breaks. None of that shit. And Muay Baran is like, well, look, it's ritual, it's cultural, it's militant, it's military, it's all of these things. And so we've got different styles of just using the same techniques. They're all the same techniques, but we just use them slightly differently based on the teacher that you're talking to, And so Muay Baran has a lot more grappling, and it's got no gloves, and it's a little bit lower stance, it's a little wider stance, and it doesn't really look a lot like Muay Thai, even though all the techniques are the same. But obviously, if you're worried that someone's going to catch your leg and break your ankle, we're going to change the rules now because I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that if we put a modern fighter in an ancient fight, in an ancient gladiatorial fight,
they'd have no chance based on the limitations to what they're allowed to do.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think a modern fighter would absolutely kick the legs out of someone, and then I think that modern fighter would not expect that person to like just shatter their patella.
Yeah, it's the same argument as if you like basketball. I've been listening to people talk about the LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate lately, and they're just saying that like,
oh, that's right. He beat his record with
he just became the highest scoring statistical player of all time. But if you put him up against him, he would have no chance back then, because the boys were like literally fighting on the court. So it's like the rules are so different now that you can't compete with them back then.
And that's the thing. I think it's the rules of the engagement will determine the outcome. I think if we took a modern fighter, modern tier 1 athlete, and we dropped him in a coliseum in Rome,
they'd die. Yeah, they'd die.
They'd die from a weapon.
Yeah,
they would die from a grapple, because we'd get into a clinch, and then you'd go, well, I've got some 21st century clinching. We've put the best of the best athletes in a ring. We found what clinch techniques work, what clinch techniques don't work. We've got the best coaches, the best ring IQ, the best tactics. Bro, I'm a fucking master of this clinch. And while I'm holding my ancient Roman Colosseum gladiatorial brother in this clinch, this guy is going to bite me in the fucking cheek, pull out one of my fucking eyes, pull me to the ground, and I'm like... Bro, I was winning the clinch. I'm like, you were winning the clinch.
What good is your clinch, guy? What good is your clinch?
But that's the thing. If we start taking away that sort of thing, if we start taking away the rough and tumble, then all of a sudden modern fighters dominate. Because of course they dominate. We know how to build muscle. We know how to use muscle. We know how to eat. We know when to sleep. Like we know which punch technique works that doesn't break our hand. Like,
yeah. And then it's like, just imagine not having a focus on losing your eye, and those guys got to focus on correct form for clinch. You know what I mean? Like they would kind of even out the playing field a little bit more. Oh, they probably would have had a bit more of a chance.
Speaking of the clinch, so I went to a tier 1, like a real proper tier 1 Muay Thai gym, like world class coaches, genuinely like world star level, like world star, world tier level coaches. Each one of these fucking guys have had like 300 fights.
Wow.
And, fucking 80%, 90%.
When you say Thai gym?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was in Alexandria. It's called SRG. Right? And incredible. So my mate, to celebrate me getting married, he's like, look, bro, I know you don't want to go hard on all this other stuff that most people do for their bachelors. So what I did was I contacted this gym. I told the coaches all about you. I did warn them that you're out of shape and all this shit, and I did warn them that you're not a knuckmoy, you're a cage guy and blah blah blah. But we all got together. We picked a coach to just do a few hours with you.
Damn, bro.
And he's like, don't even worry about the cost. I've covered it.
Wow.
Go learn some shit. And so I did that 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I got my ass kicked. Last year, right? So we talked about this before. Over the last like 2 years, I lost a lot of people that were really, really important to me. I hadn't fought in my last fight was a year before I met my now wife. And I didn't stop.
Now wife or now fiance?
Now wife. We're married.
I thought you were saying you were going to get married.
No. We are married.
Bro, we got some shit to cover.
That's I'll tell you that story as well, because that's hilarious. But you're gonna have to put a pin on it.
Yeah.
Remind
I'll remember.
When I finish the Thai story.
I'll remember
the marriage story.
So what the fuck? Bro,
I got I'd put on a good 20 kilos since I'd been fighting. So I did all my fights at middleweight, and I hated it. I was walking around light heavy. I wanted to stay light heavy. And just with all of like the combat training I'm doing, and I'm getting ready to do security work overseas, and I'm getting all this other stuff going. I'm like, I want the extra muscle and all that sort of thing, and I feel better and I look better and all that sort of shit. And so I got to light heavy 5 years ago when I stopped training. And job changes, you get sick. I've had a whole bunch of surgeries and fixing injuries and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, life happens. Yeah.
But then when I lost my nana and dada and I lost my boy, I put on 17 kilos, 18 kilos, and I'm like, that's rough. And I was angry all the time. And, you know, one day, my woman grabs me and she's like, go to the fucking gym. She's like, you need to get this out. Someone's got to punch you. You got to punch him back. You got to lose some weight. You got to feel better about yourself. And it was like that thing with Tyson going, Tyson saying, I don't want to get into that headspace because it's all I've known all my life. And I don't want to get that tunnel vision. I don't want to be that guy I was back then. And you know, but I'm going to get on the treadmill. I'm going to put a little bit of time in. And then all of a sudden, a little bit of here becomes 20 minutes, becomes 2 hours, becomes, all right, now I'm going to do a workout. I'm going to hit some pads. So I started doing 1 day, 2 day, became 5 day. And then I did that for 6 months. I went to Melbourne. I did a little fight camp for a week. They did a King of the Hill at the end of the week, and I won King of the Hill. And then I just went, I gotta go back.
You stand on top of that hill like, this is my fucking hill.
Oh, bro. And that was the thing. I lost that hill. So, like, I can wrestle for a striker. I can't wrestle for a wrestler. And so I'd beaten my first 4 opponents. And then they gave me Alexander, who I shit you not is a half Russian, half Australian. He's 6'1", about 105 kilos. He's a wrestler first, a jits guy second, a striker third. Wow. And I'm wrecked. I've been out 5 years. I've only lost like 6 of the 17 kilos or something. And you know, I've been back a few months. My cardio is not ready for fucking 5 rounds.
Alexander.
MMA. Bro, not a chance. I beat my first 4 guys. You know, I fucked up that first guy striking. Just no hope. Just Nicholas stood up, Nicholas stood down. And then you know, I got the other guys, and they're all really good athletes. I'm not saying that I'm king shit or anything. I'm just like, you know, I was on a roll. I'm in my rhythm. I'm in my space.
Stood up. Sorry, I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna start saying that.
And then, you know, I'm working my way through, and you know, I'm fighting the second guy. Second guy is like, oh fuck, all right, so he's got some hands. Let's start for a clinch. He gets into a clinch. I'm like, motherfucker, in my zone. And you know, I work my way out of this clinch, and then I take control and all that sort of shit. And then third guy comes in. Third guy's like, I'm gonna do a bit more wrestling. And then, you know, I surprise him. I was like, fuck, first sprawl, immediately he tries to turn double into single, get out of single. I'm like, bro, are you serious? Fucking beginners, get on top, start punching, all that sort of stuff. Fourth guy comes in and he goes, all right, so what are you? We're gonna keep some distance, and then I'm gonna take him when I can take him and all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden it's a bit more calculated. And this 4th round, I'm starting to, I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of surviving, and then I'm like, all right, I got to pace myself. Hands stay up when you're tired. I'm getting on the outside, and I like getting in people's face. I like getting in clinches. I like getting close. I like throwing hooks and elbows and that sort of thing. And so I'm getting on outside, and I'm trying to find an opening, and finding an opening when you're exhausted is hard. And eventually, you know, I see an opening, I get close, I have to eat a few shots. Fuck, that's just how it goes sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes you're going to eat some shit.
Yeah.
And, but, you know, eventually I get a little bit of control. We start fighting, we break out. I manage to bridge before he can compose himself, and I'm on top of him again, and we're going. And eventually I sweep him, and when I sweep him, I'm coming down on top, and I'm like, oh, sweet. Top position. Once you get top position, you're out. Next guy. And I get out, and I swear to God, I'm about to shit out my diaphragm. Like, I'm so done. I'm so ready to sit down. I'm wrecked. I've been eating shots for round 3 and 4. And like, they've been wanting, and there's the elevation changes. We've gone ground, standing, ground, clinch on the wall, get off the wall, back on the wall. I'm wrecked. And the coach, who's like only been dealing with me for like 4 days, takes the 5th guy out and he goes, Alex, come here.
Oh,
and Alex comes in and he's like,
this was Alex.
And Alex is like, oh, I'm on round 3. And I'm like, you're my round 5.
Yeah.
And like, Alex goes, oh, this will be good. He puts in the mouth guard. We got the gloves, touch gloves. Alex is like trying to stand and trade. And I'm just like, you know, he's a bit taller than I am. He's got a bit more reach than I am. And I'm trying to like suss my way out. And, you know, I start just kind of outpointing him, and I'm just trying to figure out what's Alex going to do. You know, Alex steps in, I check his calf and that sort of stuff, and I'm like, all right, maybe I can slowly chop this giant down to size. And you know, we're kind of working it out, and then I can see the switch in Alex's head where he goes, fuck this. And Alex is just all on wrestling. And honestly, there's a moment where all of a sudden 5 seconds feels like 5 minutes, where I do like, he does 5 different attempts to take me to the ground. I do 5 like I defend myself 5 times, and as soon as I think I've got it, he's just like vanishes.
No.
He's gone. And like I've gotten right out of the last one, and as soon as I've gotten out of the last one, he's behind me. The seatbelt comes in, and I'm like, oh, Alex, be gentle. And Alex is like, get the fuck out! Like, I'm flipped, feet in the air. I'm seatbelt fucking side slammed, whatever, suplexed. He like throws me over him onto the ground. Alex is on top, and I'm like, I'm fucked, bro. Just let me have it and get off. Like, just.
Oh my god!
But then I get up, and you know, Alex is like, all right, I won my 3rd, and then Alex gets his ass kicked for 4. Alex gets out his ass kicked for 5, and then I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, there's like 15 fighters. I'm the only one that won 4 rounds.
Yeah, nice.
And you know, like, you know, we do a 2nd round, I win another 1 or 2, but it's like, oh, Adam, you won King of the Hill. And
Nice.
and, you know, everybody's sitting there like, bro, you did really well. And I'm sitting there, I can feel my own forehead vein. I can feel like I'm probably developing cancer in my armpits. I'm just like, what the fuck? But, you know, I get back from Melbourne, and I've gotten the affirmation that I haven't had in like 5 years. Because it's one thing to kind of, you know, you sit with your cousins and I, you know, I get that we're having a laugh now, but like, I don't like talking about my successes because I don't think that's the right way you should be doing it. Like the way I saw it growing up with all my cousins being fighters, my uncles being fighters and stuff like that, that like, I talk about my failures, I talk about Jake's successes. And Jake talks about Jake's failures, but Jake talks about my successes. And that's a way that we be humble. That's a way that
And is that like person, like toward me and you towards each other? Or is that when you say like talk about their successes, do you just take that to others, or do you say me and you would say it to each other?
And we take it to each other.
Okay, we also do it to each other.
You show humility, and you show respect. You remind yourself that you're not the biggest dick in the room every day. Sometimes someone just has your ticket, and you remind yourself that you're going to get old, and everybody has something to learn. You always have something to learn. It doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 30 years. You walk into a new gym, someone's going to teach you something new because someone's got a new idea, and things evolve all the time. And that's just how it goes. But that's how I was. That's how I saw things growing up. That's how I think they should be. Like I talk about my failures. We all have something to learn from them, you know. And you can talk about your failures, and we have something to learn from them. But you know, you should be proud of your successes. And the people that should bear witness should be able to talk about those things without being insecure, you know, about it.
That's a good point.
And that's the thing of like, I didn't know. I didn't know that I needed that affirmation. I desperately needed it, and I had no clue. And then at the same time, it was one of those like, I didn't realize I was that bad out of shape. You know, I still sort of looked like myself. Yeah. And you know, I still mentally knew the moves. And I just didn't realize just like how bad it got. And so, you know, I went back to training, and then I stopped for 2 months. The first month I was working on a farm.
Hang on, I dropped a pin in. I dropped a couple pins in there through that story. I wanted to know, like, just on the talk about your own failures, and we talk about you talk about my successes story. Yeah. That's a very, very fucking great way to live life, and I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm gonna start doing that more, because my failures is your successes, because you've now learnt from my mistakes. Yeah. And it's like, because by sharing my failures, I'm sharing my success because I've learnt from it. Yeah. Like that can get stretched out into such a massive philosophy. I love that mindset.
Well, I remember telling you boys way back in the day when you were teenagers, and I just sat there and I'm like, bro, I got my ass kicked once in Auburn. And I'm like, I've been training since I was 10. I've been doing kung fu. I've been doing boxing. I've been doing kickboxing. I've been doing a little bit of wrestling. I've been doing Krav Maga. You know, my family of soldiers, they're teaching me how to do shit. And then I'm going, and my cousins are taking me to their gym. They're like, oh, Adam, we're doing jits today, so come with us to the coach, and we're going to do a little bit of jits with him. Oh, Adam, today we're doing judo. Let's go here. Like, that'll be fun. I'm like, oh, okay, what are we doing today? Oh, every Monday, Tuesday, we're doing this sort of boxing, and then we do this. Just come with us. And we just go to these different gyms. We're following the coach, and been doing it for years. And, you know, I've learned lessons from guys in prison. I've learned lessons from guys in the military. I've learned lessons from guys who are pro fighters, and they've already made all their mistakes in the ring. And I'm like, I feel untouchable. I'm 17. I'm 10 foot tall. My dick, I could wear it like a scarf.
By 17, like, that's crazy.
And that's the thing. You have that attitude. And my uncle owned a kebab shop in Auburn, because every Turk, part of your citizenship
Standard.
means you got to run a kebab shop.
As soon as you said that, I thought standard.
Yeah. and I'm at my uncle's place, and I've had something to eat, and I'm calling up one of my mates, and I'm fucking around. I'm having a chat to a cousin. These are my streets, blah, 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 blah. And there's a bunch of guys who were just being dicks. They were just being loud. And it's the monkey dance. A group of boys get together. The IQ drops. And, I think I'm bulletproof. I call out to them, shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to listen to you, blah, 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 blah. Naturally, there's 5 of us. There's one of you. And I'm like, 5 of you? Bro, you need more fucking guys, man. And, I'm ready for this. And I'm forming game plans. I'm like, this cunt I'm taking first. Then I'm lining them up. And I'm... all right, I reckon that guy's got a mean punch, but that dude's got 0 cardio. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to tear him apart. My uncle's going to be impressed with me. I'm going to get free soup. It's going to be the best. And you know what happened? He got in my face. And right as he's in my face, never saw it coming. Just elbow came up, elbow hit chin, Adam went down. And then that's it. I was on the ground. You got bleary vision. I cover up, and I'm like, nah, fuck it. This is where I lose. Someone kicked my ass. Let's go. And then, they kicked me for a little bit. My uncle comes out swinging a knife. They leave. And, but I'm like, bro, shit happens.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah,
Sometimes
of course,
you just don't see it coming, and it happens.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, fuck,
but
bro.
like you learn from that, and anybody who's gotten into any amount of trouble has a story like that.
Yeah.
Anybody who's gotten into fighting, whether legit or not so legit, they've got a story like that.
Yeah.
But like, nobody wants to hear about you being champion of the gym. And if you've really done successes in the cage, like legitimately, professionally, and not just like smoker fights or amateur fights, then there's videos of them and there's records of them, and you can just tell people, hey, bro, Google me if you want to see if I'm legit. But you and I have talked about this before, that authenticity doesn't need to brag.
Yeah.
And it's important to learn from them and to go, hey, even if I'm teaching you boys, and even if one-on-one I might be bulletproof right now, like, no one's bulletproof forever, and sometimes it's just not your day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I love the philosophy. It's actually so good. It's so humbling to me as well, because it's like, maybe I don't do that enough. Maybe I don't really talk about males enough, as much as I should. But the second thing I wanted to do that I put a pin in as you were talking was, fuck, you can paint a picture, bro. You can paint a picture. When you're describing to me that King of the Hill story, I'm there, bro. I'm you. I'm going to use that as a memory in 20 years. You know what I mean? I'm going to tell a story about how I won King of the Hill against Alexander, but he beat my ass, but I still came out on top. Okay. Honestly, do you know how you have that ability? Like, how do you learn to speak such a painting? Do you ever think about that?
Honestly, it's not everybody likes it that way, my family are 2 things. They're fighters and they're storytellers.
Yeah.
And it's the most human thing that you can do, is telling stories.
Oh, 100%.
That's how you teach.
That's
what
life
how you
is.
entertain.
Yeah. That's songs, that's video games, that's comic books, that's the Bible.
It's all storytelling,
Yeah.
And that's what we do. We come home from our day and we tell stories. And if you want people to listen, those stories have to be engaging. And I was listening to a story that my cousin was telling me, and my cousin was telling me this story about another cousin. And I don't even remember what the story was. What I remember was the lesson, because he got one of the details wrong. And it was something really trivial. He was like, oh, you remember what it was like a couple of Thursdays ago? We were doing blah, 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 blah at this gym, and then we left the gym. And the other cousin goes, oh, no, that wasn't Thursday, bro. It was Tuesday, man. And my cousin stops and goes, look, I get that you're young, but he's like, don't do that, man. He just sat there and he goes, 1, you're undermining me while I'm telling stories, and you and me are family. Don't do that in front of people. Check me later.
Yeah.
But the second one is, he goes, the day's not the important part of the story.
Yeah.
The story is going to evolve. That's how legends happen.
Yeah.
We want legends. You want more legends. And they're naturally going to evolve over time. And you can fuck up the little mistakes. They don't matter. It's so long as the point of the story is true, so long as the core element of that story is true, and so long as they want to listen, so long as they want to ask you, so long as we get what you like, that reaction that you want out of them, then like, that's what's important. You can't be holding on to onto just them little things. And it sits there and you're like, bro, if the true thing was that you got into a fight with like 4 dudes who were like tagging a train, and then while you're telling the story later over a few drinks, you're like, nah, there was 5 guys because there was one of them who was a little bit further away. You're like, all right, look, the story's a little bit bullshit, but the core of the story is actually like he actually did take on 4 people, and that's mad impressive. And you're like, you know, the people that don't like that element about me of telling stories, they straight up will tell people that he's full of shit, or they'll straight up say that, oh no, like you got to take everything he says with a grain of truth. And you know, my wife has explained to people of like, you know, he wants to engage you. And I'm like, look, I'm telling the truth that all of this happened. And if you want like photos and videos and all that sort of thing, we'll start sending you photos and videos. But that's not the point. I'm having an interaction with you, and I'm telling, like, you asked me a question, I'm telling you a story back.
Well, I fucking think it's an amazing gift. It's a skill.
But I think part of that is, I'm passionate about what I'm like about the story that I'm trying to tell. Yeah. Because it's not I'm passionate about making me look good. I'm passionate about martial arts, and I'm passionate about myself seeking perfection, because you can't ever get it. But you can always try and be better.
Del gave me a book called by I don't know how to say his name, Miyamoto Musashi, and that's Hi-Ho. That's the definition of, is that how you pronounce it? Hi-Ho? That's the philosophy that he came up with, this swordsman. How do you say it?
I think it was Dokkaido.
Kairo. I think it was spelled H. No, it was spelled with a H.
Right.
That's right, and that's the philosophy. You're chasing perfection, but you will never, ever, ever achieve it.
But it's kind of like that Buddhist attitude of like, you want to seek enlightenment. It's going to take you 8 lifetimes, but you know, you want to try and check yourself for your lesser elements. But yeah, I don't know. It's almost tribal. You know, I'll see fucking 13 of my cousins hanging around a barbecue. Everybody's standing around 3 charcoal boxes that they've literally chained together with the chain. They've got grills on all of them. They're cooking, some of them are cooking steaks and sausages and wings, and some of them are cooking Adana kebabs and a bit more authentic Turkish food and all that sort of stuff. But they're all standing around a barbecue. Maybe they're having a smoke, maybe they're having a spa. But the goal is to teach someone something, make someone laugh, make someone mad. And everybody is just, they're all telling their story. And it's one of those, like, the most mundane element can be exciting if you can find something exciting in it and you can share that with someone that wants to listen to you, you know? And it's one of those things of like, you know, I've written short stories before, and I'm partway through a novel at the moment, and I've written scripts, and when I was doing that sort of stuff and I was talking to people at these workshops or at uni or whatever, and they're like, oh, you get this advice of like, is this the most exciting thing that your character could be doing? If not, why aren't you showing me that? And the counterpoint is like, mundanity is real, but people aren't necessarily, like, the average person isn't mad with mundanity. They take joy out of it. What is that element of the mundane that they take joy out of, you know? And then explore why that mundane element brings you joy. And, you know, human beings are odd creatures, you know? There's no such thing as normal, but there's things that we understand to be within a normal range of behavior and thinking and attitudes and whatnot. Yeah. And you just, you know, you explore that one little thing that's mundane and odd, or that one little thing that's not normal where everything else in the picture is normal. And yeah, I don't know, but it's like when it comes to stand-up comedy, the comedians are always talking about, it's not the joke that's so important, it's the delivery. And it's like, when you're telling me this story about the scorpion that you've seen, like, yeah, and you know, and every small detail down to the little deviation in the rock that you flipped with your knife, like, it's like, I'm so grateful for that. I try and be that storyteller, because it's not just like you're telling me information that I can now tell someone else. Oh, my mate's seen a scorpion, surprisingly enough. I was there. You invited me into your experience. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's a fucking amazing gift. That's why it's like, when you tell me stories, I'm thinking, don't stop talking, cunt. That's, oh, bro, like, fuck, I'm so bored when you're not in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what am I going to do when you leave, bro? I'm going to be fucking using my imagination again. I heard a saying recently that man is the only creature that can blush.
Yeah, okay.
I like
That's cool.
because I think that's a really poetic way to say that man's the only creature with an ego.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a really cool way of looking at it. And you know, sea otters attacking, like sea otters have gang warfare. Chimps have figured out how to shank guys with spears and stuff, and there's cruelty, and there's animals that are homosexual, and there's animals that bury and mourn their dead, and you
Is there?
Yeah,
Really?
elephants, for example, bury and mourn their dead.
Really?
Crows bury and mourn their dead.
Fuck. How does an elephant dig a hole like that?
Well, they bury them in down trees.
Oh, yeah.
Down trees and
Oh, like
stuff
they
like
cover,
that.
they fucking...
Yeah, they cover the body.
Wow. That's beautiful.
But that's the thing. Like when people talk about like what separates humanity from animals, and they're like, well, humans can express kindness, and I'm like, that is an abject lie.
Yeah.
Animals, most animals show each other kindness when their life's not on the line, and they're like, well, humans mourn their dead, and I'm like, also not true. Dogs mourn. You know, rhinos mourn, pigs mourn, cows mourn. Cows are stupid as shit, and cows mourn.
Yeah.
You know? And there are animals that have funerary rites, which is unbelievable. And they're like, well, humanity can choose who they love, whereas animals don't have a choice. And I'm like, also a lie. There are plenty of animals that have one-on-one relationships, and there are animals that have, like, what do you think a mating dance is?
Yeah. Like
and,
a penguin, like fuck a penguin.
Yeah,
a
and they're
perfect
like,
example
humans
of
use
that.
tools. And you're like, no, otters use tools, chimps use tools, birds use tools, like crows use tools, like that sort of thing. And you're like, well, you know, in that what separates man. I was listening, there's a guy named Cornel West, and I love Cornel West. I could talk about him all day. I was listening to him do a podcast.
What's his premise? Like, what is he? What's Cornel West?
Cornel West is everything. Cornel West is a philosopher.
What is this everything?
He's a professor. He's an activist. He's a political theorist. He's a philosopher. He's
He's
theologian.
like a Jordan Peterson in a way, similar.
Because
I love Jordan
He's
Peterson.
got like 3 times the accolades of Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
So
I'll
if you
look
look him up, he's an incredible person, and through his whole fiber, he believes in love and justice.
Yeah, nice.
And I can get into that another time if you put a pin in it.
Yeah,
And,
I've got 2 pins in there.
But Cornel West said recently that he goes, you know what man is? Man is a, what was it? It was a 2-legged, featherless creature, linguistically intuned, that came out somewhere between urine and feces. and that's a great way to think of it, because in ancient Greece there was a dude named Diogenes. Diogenes was a miserable guy, and he was around about the same time as Plato, and Plato was teaching at his academies and all that sort of thing, and Plato and Diogenes would regularly have it out about what it means to be man and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that got taught at the time was man is a featherless bipod, and what else separates us from everybody else. And so Diogenes grabs a chicken, plucks out all the feathers, and throws it into Plato's academy and go, look, behold a man before you. And like, and you know, if only that chicken could talk, right? Like, just
Yeah.
But no, man's the only creature that can blush. I kind of like that idea.
I like that too. Oh, there was a couple pins dropped in this conversation. Wife. Oh no. We haven't finished the story yet. We haven't finished the training you got to have with this guy in Alexandria.
Oh, shit. So I don't know anything about this dude, right? I rock up, I fill out the paperwork. They go, you've done some cage before, and I'm like, yeah, a little bit long ago. And they went, Harry, did you do Muay Thai? And I'm like, yes, I did. I'm like, did you box? And I'm like, yes, I did. And they're like, did you wrestle? And I'm like, yes, I did. And they're like, Jitsu? And I'm like, very little bit. And and you know, they're like, oh, okay, we'll pair you with this guy. Joe, come over here. And Joe comes over, bows, can you put your bag over there, start skipping? I'm like, I fucking hate skipping, bro. Like, you know, back when I was a kid, and even as an early adult, I'd go to gym, you know, go to Pride or Lionheart or whatever it is, you Full Force or whatever, you go to gym, they're like, all right, everybody start skipping. I'm like, man, I fucking hate skipping. And they do the same thing. They're like, you could skip for 3 minutes or you can run for 10. And I'm like, hold my hat, I'm gonna start running. Run for 10. I'll see you guys in a bit. I hate skipping, man. I'm flat-footed, I've got massive built calves, I don't want to skip. I got no rhythm, can't dance for shit. And but yeah, he makes me skip, and then after that he goes, oh, let's see what you can do. So he gets the pads out. He's like, throw a jab, throw a cross, throw a hook. He goes, okay, cool. We start playing with it, and we start doing a bit of pad work. Take it seriously. All right, now 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see what we can get up to. What if I'm moving forward? Can you step to the side and do this? I'm like, yeah, sweet. So we do the first round, and then And, you know, I'm there for a couple hours, and so after that, he gets the next bit. He goes, all right, let's do kicks. Can you kick? Can you knee? Can you, like, show me your footwork? And, you know, fuck. During the second round of pad work, I screwed myself because I was making a mistake, because I'm not thinking Muay Thai. I'm thinking what I do. And so the stance is a little bit off. My balance is just like a little bit off, and so he goes, what I want you to do is I want you to check. I want you to switch. I want you to throw your knee. I want you to do another switch, throw another knee, do another, or do a check or something like that. And I'm fucking it up. I'm getting my foot in the check is coming down to the ground before I do the switch, and it's telegraphing my move. And my coach has no English. He's born, raised, fresh off the boat, Thailand.
Okay.
And so he's got the most broken English ever. And he's like basically teaching with his body language. And if you've done any sort of martial arts or dance, you can kind of read the body language and learn from that. And so he's scolding me. And then he goes, no, not like this. And then he mirrors my behavior, and then he shows me how to do it. And then he brings me to the side. He goes, do 5. And so I do 5, you know. And I'm like, all right, cool, I figured it out. And he goes, okay. And so I'm like, all right. We keep doing the pad work, still kicking, still kneeing. And then afterwards he goes, okay, gib 10. And I went, all right. And, you know, I do the first 10's fine. I do the second 10. And, you know, you're getting tired. You start kind of half-assing it. You're not bringing that hip all the way back. You start doing the taekwondo sort of kicks, and you're just trying to get a little rhythm in to hit your 10 and do your cardio or whatever. And he goes, no. You, the hip, the foot, he's explaining what he wants. And he goes, you come from here, you blah. And so he takes me over to the heavy Thai bag, and he goes, do. And so I do the 5, and he goes, more power. So I do it again, and he goes, more power, and I fucking slam it, and he goes, okay. And then we go back to doing pads, and now we're tying the top to the bottom together, you know, punches, kicks, set up punches, set up kicks, knees, and all that sort of shit. And I make another mistake, and he like goes to swing, and I check the swing, and he sat there, and in his mad broken English, he goes, you too good, no make mistake anymore. Goes, no more mistake.
Yeah.
He goes, beginner, make mistake.
Yeah.
You no make more mistake.
That's awesome.
And I just sat there.
Should let him slap me.
Yeah. Fucked up. And you know, like, and the way they do it in Thailand, everything 110% power all the time.
Yeah.
And so we're doing the pad work, and he goes, no, more power. And I fucking went for it. I'm like, my whole body is, I'm doing it like with the strictest form, as much juice as I can bring. And then and he's my height, but like 20 kilos lighter. And like, you hear the goosh. And he sits there and he goes, good power. And I sat there and I'm like, there's a split second, there's a matrix fast second happening in my head right now of like, bro, I still got it. I bring the power, baby. And then the rational, the higher order thinking of my brain kicks in, and I'm like, you son of a bitch, he's gonna expect that every time. Like, he just he knows what you're capable of. You're fucked now. Like, I just
That's sick.
And so, you know, we get through that whole like first half of all the training. And so he takes off the gear. And he goes, have little water. He goes, we fight now. And I went, oh shit. All right, cool. So I redo the wrap on my hands. I chuck the gloves on. I chuck the shins on. Chuck the gloves on. And you know, he's looking at my shins and my gloves because I bought the Hayabusa luxury set, right? Mm-hmm. Hayabusa make good stuff. They make. Like, but their stuff is like the same quality as Fairtex or Top King or what, or Yukaido or whatever. Like, it's good. It's really high quality stuff. Mm-hmm. But you're only getting like it's diminishing returns. It's only slightly better, slightly worse. You know, it's a little bit better than Cleater Race for this. It's a little bit worse for this. And but you know, Hayabusas are heap more expensive. You know, it's got branding behind it. You're paying for the name. It's, But then then Hayabusa has the luxury, which is the same stuff, but instead of the plastic coat that goes over the leather gloves, they just have an extra layer of like Italian leather.
Oh yeah.
So it's all the same, but it's just
the cream of the crop. Yeah.
It's just nice.
Yeah.
You pay at least an extra $100 for it, but it's just nice.
Yeah.
And, I brought out all my old training gear when I got back into doing all the training, and I swear to God, it exploded. It burst. Like a proper burst. My shins ripped all the way down the side and burst. Yeah. And then my gloves had a mad rip. Like they basically went from finger to wrist. And and I was like, you know what? I bought not the cheapest stuff, but you know, I bought the gear that everybody else had, and then I worked it to the point where it exploded. And now I'm getting back into it, and I'm getting back into it an older person, more serious, and much more care with my diet, much more strategic in how I approach the ring and all that sort of thing with a cage. And I'm like, I just want nice shit now. I'm an adult. I have grown up money now. I want the nice stuff. And so I was saying this to my mates, and they're like, bro, why wouldn't you just get Fairtex? Everybody's got Fairtex or Top King or whatever. And I'm like, and this is important, right? Style. Like I've got the bright red kickboxing shorts because I'm a Turk and it has to be bright red. And then everything else, Italian leather. Italian leather or nothing. and so I'm putting on all this stuff, and Joe's looking at me and he's like, why? And I just looked at him and I was like, and so you know, Joe gets on his gear. And we're getting into the ring, and so he goes, you have mouth, and I'm like, oh, I need a new mouth guard. I got to get something custom molded. I hate the boil and bites and all that sort of thing. And he goes, oh, it's okay, we go light. And so the whole first round we're sussing each other out and all that sort of stuff. And obviously he's training me. He's not about to flog me at the very beginning of round one, you know. So he wants to suss me out, and we work at it, and it goes okay, right? He lands a couple kicks. He lets me land a couple kicks. We do some boxing and that sort of stuff. And we're like, oh, okay, round one goes all right. And he goes, okay, give abdicating. He's like, you do. And I was like, oh, he wants to bring the heat. Let's bring the heat. And like, you fucking, you know me, bro. Once we open the can, that's it. And I was like, one of us is eating this can of whoop ass. I mean, it's probably going to be me. But, like, one of us is eating the can. Like, I just... and so I'm going for it. And the coolest shit, I tried to set up a flying knee. And as soon as I got airborne, he just sidestepped this knee and punched me. And, but like, you know, I'm wider than he is, and I'm maybe like this much taller, and you know, I kind of like I forced my way into this clinch, and once I've gotten into the clinch, and it was one of those things of like I got in the clinch, and like, fuck you, I'm in. And as soon as I got in, he was so strong, but so calm, that I just see him kind of like. Just waiting which bit is going to go first. And I immediately, like, I've got just enough experience to know, like, new game plan is survive. Like, this man's about to throw you out of the ring. And, like, I had a game plan. That game plan's gone. Like, just... And, you know, so I'm trying to work through this clinch, and I'm trying to throw knees, and he fucking catch my knee, flip me and stuff. And I get back up, you know. All right, sick. We get back into it, break my way back into the clinch because, you know, I don't back down from gym. I'm back in this clinch until I make something happen. And you know, I see him like trying to spin me around, and I'm able to keep my feet and all that sort of stuff. But he's done Muay Thai his whole life the strict Thai way. Yeah. And I haven't. And I'm like, I'll use that to my advantage. You know, like I think differently in these situations to him. So he's expecting Muay Thai, he's not expecting me. And so all of a sudden I'm able to like apply some pressure with my shoulder, and I'm able to do just like a little bit more boxing hands. And you know, I'm trying to move him around almost like I'm countering in a wrestling clinch, you know, and he's checking me a little bit. He's like, we do Muay Thai, and I'm like, yeah, Muay Thai.
Yeah.
I'm not about to hit you with a Dagestani drag. Nothing like that's gonna happen. Like, but like I get into this clinch, and all of a sudden I can now fight back. He can't read the movement because it's not the traditional movement. And so, you know, he gets enough of that shit. And eventually, like, you know, he breaks his way out, takes me to the ground again. I'm like, yeah, cool. So we get back up, doing some checking, doing some kicking. And I'm like, all right, if he can't read, he's familiar with the boxing movements, but he's not a boxer.
It's not a habit,
and he's like loosely familiar with the wrestling stuff, but basically from what he's watched and not from what he's done. And so I'm catching him up on some of the boxing, and, you know, and then like at one point he lands a knee on me when I land a body shot, and he's just like, you know, that's not a good move because, you know, for the energy you spend and how exposed you are, I do more damage with my knee than you do with your body shot. And we're like working out like the ring tactics and all that sort of stuff. And so he throws a round kick, right? I catch his round kick and I try to sweep him and it goes nowhere. And it's unbelievable. I've perfectly caught this kick. I've turned and I've hit him, like I've gone for the tendon, and he's just stonewalled me. And I went, how the fuck? Bro, I'm not letting this go. And, so, you know, I instead, you know, I try to drag the knee and go in for I drag his kick and I try to come in for my own knee, and he you know, he's seen that shit coming a mile off. So as soon as he deals with the knee, fist comes over because, you know, I like my casting hooks, and casting hook tags him. And he's like, oh, okay, get a bit more serious now. And so, you know, he ends up throwing one kick and I basically just have to eat it with an elbow. He throws the other kick and I manage to catch it again. And this time I've come in inside and I sweep him, but I sweep him with almost like I know him as a Belgian, but like it's like a Sambo sort of sweep takedown sort of thing. So I come into this leg, and then I've brought my leg up in between his, and I've lifted the leg that's on the ground and I've sent him to the floor. And so I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I did it. And then he gets up, biggest smile. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's all love. Yeah, fucking good job. And like every second, first second, he takes me down. I get back up, another second, takes me down. Get back up, another second, takes me down. I'm like, Jesus fuck. Like I get ready to check, takes me down. I throw a kick, it takes me down. I throw a punch, takes me down. And like I break my way into a clinch, flips me to the ground. I'm like, fuck. And so, you know, I'm having the best time. And he's explaining stuff. He's showing me what I'm doing wrong and how he's reading it and all that sort of stuff. And this was a really, really great lesson. So much feedback. And so, you know, I've gotten up and we keep working, and I'm like, all right, cool. So, you know, I can get my way into the clinch, and I can set up a couple switch knees, all right, and I'm getting the hands on him and all that sort of stuff. But like then I'm eating a lot of these kicks, and I'm not checking right because I'm expecting someone to maybe try and do a single leg or something. I'm expecting someone to try and drag from like a forearm or a shoulder. Or I'm expecting like a casting hook, which is never thrown in Muay Thai, and that sort of thing. And so I'm trying to get out of these habits. I'm trying to do it right. By the end of the session, we're doing a bunch of calisthenics, and we get them done. And I'm basically useless. I'm so useless doing these calisthenics,
Yeah.
and I'm embarrassed. By the end of last year, I'm doing like 100 push-ups, and I'm working off kettlebells, and I'm trying to get back into the rhythm of things. I'm trying to get back into that motion. And, you know, I took 2 months off. I did 1 month working on property. I did another month doing nothing but straight partying for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like only 3 weeks back in a gym now. I have not recovered from the damage I did in that 2 month period. So I'm barely making these 40 push-ups. I'm barely making them. And, you know, and then it's all love. We take a photo. He asks about my wife. I'm showing him pictures of my gun. And, like, you know, he's showing me pictures of him in Thailand. I'm like, it's all sick. I head to the counter and I'm having a chat to the Brazilian guy who's, like, working behind the desk. And he goes, oh, yeah, during the breaks between your sessions, like, Joe's come over and we've been talking to each other in Thai. And I'm like, you don't look Thai. And he goes, no, I'm Brazilian, but I spent a lot of time in Thailand and all that. So he goes, no, Joe said you're really good. And Joe said that this part of your movement is really good. And this technique is that you learn very, very quickly, and you've obviously done this before, and you have very, very good power. And I was like, oh yeah, that's fucking mad. I'm glad that I've got all this feedback, and it's nice to know that, okay, cool. The mind remembers, the body is starting to remember, and all that sort of shit. And then he goes, but man, Joe said that you tripped him. And I tripped him once. And he goes, how did that go for you? And I'm like, not well. Not well at all.
Yeah.
Joe really punished me for that. And he goes, Joe has had 296 fights in Thailand. Joe is actually considered a master of the clinch and a master of the sweep.
Wow.
When it comes to Thai fighting, he is legitimately considered one of the best when it comes to a clinch or a sweep.
Wow.
And I went, you've got to be shitting me. And he goes, yeah, so Joe's just been playing with you when it comes to that sort of shit. And I went, straight up, I'm not even bullshitting you. I got a feeling that something was wrong. Like, I've got just enough experience to have a feeling that I'm about to get fucked. You know, like, just being in that room to know that you shouldn't be in the room, you know? Just...
That's awesome. 296. I wonder if he'll ever go to 300. How old was this bloke?
In his mid-30s.
Mid-30s, so he's fucking young,
He'd
bro.
been fighting since he was like 13.
Wow, he's
like,
younger
that's fighting in a ring
Yeah.
since he was 13. I'm like, I didn't start fighting until I was 10.
Yeah.
I didn't get in a ring until I was like 17. Ish.
Fuck.
Ish.
Fuck.
Like,
What an animal. 296 fights, bro. You're going to learn
just
some shit.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Honestly, it reminds me of this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy that I did some training with, because when I was preparing for my last fight, I'd do these 10K runs or the 8K runs and whatever, and he was running a cafe, and I would stop by the cafe and get a coffee, and he's like, oh, how's your training going? You're looking good, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, training's doing well. I've got this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, break, whatever. And, you know, need to sell my weeks, and this is what I'm working on. I'm really struggling with this. And he goes, oh, I've got a tip, do it this way. And I'm like, yeah, sick, thanks, man. And it was just like that for ages. And eventually, he goes, oh, I run a little Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. You should come. And I'm like, you run it? Yeah, sick. Absolutely. I'd love to. And I'm like, can we do like just a one-on-one session and whatever? And he goes, yeah, I'd love to do a one-on-one session. Let's do it. And so we get together. We're in this hall. It's like a scout hall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you're not running a gym. You're like renting a space. It turns out he runs like 2 or 3 gyms, but the scout hall is like his hobby, because it's all like the locals, the kids, the teenagers, the parents that don't know if they want to do it seriously. And he gets that much enjoyment out of the white belts instead of the black belts. And so he brings me to the scout hall. And he's like, we'll start standing, because you know how to start standing. He goes, just do whatever you can to take me to the ground, and then we'll do a roll.
Yeah.
And then every time I tap you on the ground, we'll start back up on our feet. And I'm like, all right, cool. I've got nothing. Every time I thought I got somewhere, he debated me. And then I got this advice when I was a teenager that any good fighter is running 3 or 4 plans at any given time. Right? Your stand-up striker is running 2 or 3 plans. Your wrestler is running 2 or 3 plans. Your jitsu guy is running 4 or 5 plans, because he doesn't have to worry about a broken nose. And you're like, and really, really good MMA fighters are doing all of that at once. You know, at any given time, I've got 3 stand-up options, 2 wrestling options, and 5 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu options. And as you cross off 1, I'm actually working 2. And if you cross off 2, I'm actually working 3. And so, you know, I keep having these like 2 or 3 plans at once. You know, I'm trying to ankle pick him. I'm trying to seatbelt grip him. I'm trying to pull him down from an elbow. I'm trying to do anything. And every time I think I got something, I'm right where he wants me to be. And so we're rolling for a good while. And just eventually, I'm done. And he's like, you good? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Let's keep going. Like, I'm fit. Let's keep doing it. And then he goes, all right, it's been 30 minutes. We take a break now. And when we're taking a break, he's like, very good. Like, I was very impressed. You did this well. You did blah, 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 blah. I liked this. And I'm sitting there going, you're just blowing smoke up my ass, bro. You're literally, all you're doing right now is trying to protect my ego. You're just trying to make sure that I don't fucking leave.
He's just buttering you up.
Yeah, you're just trying to make sure I don't leave and never come back.
Yeah,
that's all. And I sat there and I was like, what's your background? And he goes, oh, I've had my black belt in jiu-jitsu maybe 6 years now. He goes, I just got back from competing in Japan. And I went, what? And he goes, oh, I was like 17 in the world for a little bit, but my rankings dropped and I've stopped doing it for a while. I'm like, in the world? Like, you telling me I've been wrestling with a fucking ninja for the last like 30 minutes? Like, they're like, bro, I got nothing. I got nothing, man.
All that buttering up he did just went out the window. Yeah.
And he's like, look, man, for what you're doing, like, no, you'll do really well in your fight. Like, we can keep training. Whatever you want to work on, tell me. We'll work on that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, cool. So we ended up doing a session on, like, leg locks. We did another session on what makes guillotine work and what doesn't make a guillotine work. And it's one of those, he's like, no, we just want to stick to basics. We don't need to do advanced high-level jiu-jitsu, but what you need to do is like advanced high-level analysis on the most fundamental techniques.
Yeah.
Because if you were to look at it on like if we were to arbitrarily score someone's skill from 0 to 10, right? 0 is like an obese dude who's never worked out in his life and just likes watching Jackie Chan films. And 10 is basically George St. Pierre or Fedor Emelianenko. If everybody was to be on that like scoreboard, and you were like, hypothetically, you're a 3, right? If I was a 3, you and me would be doing fundamentals. Like if you and me were to have a fight, because we both know the same advanced shit, we would just be focusing on like who can jab and who can rear naked and who has better footwork when it comes to their wrestling. But if you were a 4 and I was a 3, all of a sudden all that high level shit would count and I'm getting wrecked. And if you're a 3 and I'm a 4, then all my high level stuff's coming out. And you're getting wrecked. But then you see these like you see the top 1% UFC fighters in the world, the cream of the crop, standing toe to toe with each other, and they're like, we're the same skill. You know what this whole fight is? It's like low kicks to the thigh, jabs, and if we get into a clinch, like maybe we'll get like a hip toss. And then it's some ground and pound. And you're like the most high level dudes doing literally their white belt level 1 training.
That's a good point. I never thought
and so
about
he sat there and he goes, you know what the difference is between like my rear naked choke and your rear naked choke? Because you can do a rear naked choke and I can do a rear naked choke, but you know why mine's better than yours? And it's like, well, because no one can cheat the 10,000 hours that we were talking about at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
But also I understand little things about this super basic technique that you can't cheat the time that you don't have. You haven't spent time with the best of the best. So why don't we take this really simple component that you can already do, and then I'm going to give you just a little bit to make it work. And then when you get good at that, I'll give you just a little bit more to make it work. There's no point in teaching you high level stuff. You're not a high level grappler. So you've got low level grappling. Let's make that stuff as polished and pristine as possible. So it was really, really cool training with him, but it was definitely that experience of like, bro, there's fucking levels to this shit. Like you sit there and like, all right, that guy's better than me, but I can see that if I put in another couple of years, I'd be just as good as him. And that's not, cool, there's the coach. The coach is really, really good. But I can easily see the steps I need to take to make it to where the coach got to. Like that's a clear chart that if I want to be the coach, I can follow the same steps the coach did. And then you see dudes where you're just like,
there is nothing
there's no steps. There's nothing. There's steps till I become the best in the gym, and then there's just void until I see this guy.
I love it. It's cool how you broke it down. It's the same thing we'll talk about where it's like a jab. It's the most important weapon in your arsenal. And people spend the first day in the gym doing it, and then again before their pro fight they'll spend the championship title. But then like that's the same thing as like a leg lock, it's the same principle. It's like you can define that leg lock 10,000 hours worth of times, and it's going to be it's just crazy. That's what I love about martial arts, how much detail you can put into the smallest thing. Damo was running me through pad work today, and it's like I know how to jab. I cannot jab anywhere near as good as Damo. Like I just know how to do it. And the simple fucking art of just throwing a jab, I've got 10,000 more hours to go, I mean, I can feel it, but I can confidently jab. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and that's just it. And especially when you go to gyms and you just meet guys and they're like, oh, that dude's the top fighter, but he's the top fighter because he has the most balance between his techniques and his fitness. Whereas, don't go to him if you want to learn how to do hooks. Talk to that guy if you want to learn how to do hooks.
Yeah.
If you want to learn how to wrestle, you got to talk to that Iranian dude over there. But the guy with the best balance has tried to learn from all of them, and he's found a way to compensate for all of their strengths and all of their weaknesses simultaneously. Because that's nature. Nature disguises its weaknesses as strengths and its strengths as weaknesses. And that's what we are. We're animals. Like, we like to fight. Like, so,
that's dope.
Ideally, I want to be in a fight by the end of the year. But
That'd be cool.
I'm like, I've minimum got another 9 kilos to lose. And it feels like there's an endless amount of ring rust. And it's really weird because I've been at a pretty high level. It's like a medium to high level gym. Maybe leaning on the medium, like a 6.5 out of 10. But great coach. And it's a really good group of guys. And medium level is still good enough when I'm still trying to catch my breath. And it's just been the weirdest thing because I don't know what it is. I can't seem to see eye to eye with this coach. Like it's like he's trying to it's like I can't understand him, you know. And it's not like an English thing. It's just like the way he teaches, the way he communicates. I'm not receptive to it. So like I just did this high level shit at SRG, and they've literally got twice the experience of my current coach. They are significant, like they're world tier, and yet I was able to pick up from their movements alone
and there was a language barrier. And there was a language barrier.
Yeah, but at my current gym, there's just something that's just not working right. Yeah. And I'm always feeling awkward when I'm in that gym. Like I'm not in my own space. I'm not on my own feet. And it's just one of those things like, look, I've got to check my ego. I've done a lot of damage to my body, and just in the last couple months, I've already got years that I got to work back from. And this isn't my sport. So I can't come into this house and think it's my rules, because it's not. So, you know, there's a lot of hurdles that I'm getting over, which is cool. That doesn't bother me. Sometimes you gotta embrace being the you gotta embrace being the guppy before you can be the beast, you know. And but like I had a moment a couple weeks ago where it was just like I was struggling the whole Thai session, and then we got to the end, and I'm sitting down and I'm watching the guys spar, and there's 2 Islander dudes who they're actually quite short for Islanders, but they're well built, they're super fit. And there's an Afghan dude who's just rocked up, and he's very new to martial arts, and he's like, hey, I want to get into the cage. I don't just want to do Muay Thai, and this gym does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. Can you show me how to tie it together? And one of the Islanders is like, oh, I'm going to do my first ever like journeyman sort of MMA fight at the end of this year. Let me show you how to do a drill. And I'm watching the drill, and I'm like, bro, that takes me back. I want to be a part of this. So I'm having a chat to him, and then I'm giving my 2 cents. I'm like, look, there's no best or worst way. There's like, this might work, this might not work. This might be more efficient, this might be less efficient. And so we're going over it for a little bit, and then eventually the dude turns to me and he goes, oh, do you want a little play around? And I'm like, yeah, let's play around. And then like I play around, and it's almost like it's almost like no effort. It's all like I'm waiting for you to take this seriously. And then he gets up and it's all good, blah 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 blah. Let's go again. And then again, I'm waiting for him to take it seriously, and I'm, bro, you want to fight at the end of this year? Or like, what is going on? And then he sat there and he goes, oh, well, you've done this before. And I'm like, bro, years ago. And it's one of those things of like, I've been going through a phase recently where I'm new to everything again, despite having done it forever. You know, I sat today when I was teaching at the gun range. You know, I'm teaching this guy for like 6 hours, and there's a competition going on, and there are breaks in between for target changes, and they close the range. People can take a piss, you have a sandwich, you do whatever. And there's a competition going on that I want to enter. So I've gone down and I'm having a chat to all these guys. And the guy that I'm teaching, I'm like, look, my mate's here. He's got a rifle, but you can take mine. And, you know, we've already gone through all the fundamentals. We've gone through a shot sequence. We've gone through anatomy and language and terminology and that sort of stuff, and how to communicate. So he'll run you through some games, but I want to do some practice for myself, and I want to talk to these competition guys. And so I take my rifle over. I'm having a chat to the competition guys. I'm like, look, I know I can't compete with you guys, but can I shoot alongside to similar rules and just get some feedback and all that sort of thing? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so my gun's not really set up for their comp, but I don't care because it's fun for me. Yeah. I'm not living and dying by it. It's not making my bread and butter. So I want to do what's fun. Yeah. And I'm doing all right I'm doing really, really well actually for the first bit, and then I fuck it up, and then I do really well, and then I fuck it up, and I do really well, and I fuck it up, and I'm getting mad, and so I turn to these guys, I'm like, bro, what am I doing? And they're like, all right, it's probably this, and so we're gonna start with this, and we're gonna correct this, but then this follow through should correct your problem. And so, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm just working at it, and like all of a sudden I stopped making the fuck up. And they're like, this result is not competition grade. Like, you still wouldn't win with the result where you did everything right. But it's still an excellent result, you know? Like, these guys are shooting 5 rounds into a 10-cent piece. It's unbelievable.
What, from what distance?
100 meters, 200 meters.
What the
It's
fuck?
unbelievable. It's really, really cool. And
What
so
the
I'm
fuck? I didn't know
shooting
that was
like
possible.
3 to 5 rounds in a 10-cent piece.
That's still insane.
Yeah, but they sat there and I'm like, could you do that again? And I went, no. And they went, could you do that 10 times? And I'm like, I'll do it 4 times.
Yeah.
5 times, maybe.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, you're still going to come like second last.
Wow.
But this result is still a really, really good result
Yeah,
relative to
fucking hell.
an overwhelming majority of shooters, you know? And that's just kind of been the theme a lot lately, that despite having my experience, I've all of a sudden, every room I go into, I'm the smallest guy in that room now, all of a sudden. And it's definitely something that I'm like, I got used to it pretty quickly. Like, I don't have a problem being the new guy, but it was one of those, when you're the new guy of every room, that could absolutely get old fast.
Yeah.
But they're all in things that I'm really passionate about. So, you know, I want to learn something. You know,
Well,
these
it sounds
are
like-
the best shooters.
Yeah.
So now I'm learning from the best shooters.
Sounds like you're in the best rooms. Sounds like you're in
Yeah.
the best rooms. I
So-
think you've said it to me for a very long time, and Damon also says it to me too. If you're the best in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that just having that juxtaposition and in this Muay Thai place of like, this Islander is a really good Thai fighter, and he's so much fitter than I am, and he's young and hungry and he's into it and all that sort of thing. And you know, I'm fighting to deal with childhood demons. He's fighting because he actually wants to be a serious athlete.
Yeah.
And you know, like it's just one of those, I mauled him with no sweat.
Yeah.
And yet you put the 16s on me instead of the 4s or the 7s, and all of a sudden I've got to relearn how to guard. And it was just, it's the weirdest back and forth, you know, of like my space, my rules, your space, your rules. And especially like that kind of shooting, you know, shooting on a bench in a vice on like a super precise target on a time limit versus what I was doing, where I was sitting on a rock on a mountain shooting across a paddock.
Yeah, killing scorpions.
Totally different game, you know,
Yeah.
but still really, really cool.
Very
So,
cool. Well, you bring me back. I did want to talk about what you were doing while you were on that farm for a bit, but I want to know how, for last time we sat down, you were telling me about some of your plans to do for this year. Like, I won't go into too much detail because I do want to save it for probably another podcast, but
Let's do it.
all of a sudden, oh, my wife. And I keep hearing, I'm like, how the fuck do you mean your wife? It was, last time it was future, you know?
Yeah, all right. This year is year 6 or year 7. I don't know which. It doesn't really matter. I think end of February makes it 6 years.
Okay.
I knew from year 2 that I wanted to marry her. Right? Like,
Nice.
that first year, you're still feeling each other out.
Yeah.
You know, everything.
Well, you're thinking with your dick at that point. You're like, I want to marry her. And then you
Everything's
think,
great. You know,
you look
all
down and you think,
all it
do
is
you
really?
really?
It's chicken wings, Netflix, and sex.
Yeah.
But that second year came in, and I knew like this, like I'm gonna marry this woman, and I told her dad that over a beer. I sat there and I'm like, just so you know, I'm gonna marry your daughter. And he goes, you asking me for permission? And I'm like, that'd be nice, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like,
That's so fucked up. That's such an Adam thing to do. That is so fucking awesome.
So yeah, but you know, COVID's taken up 3 years. 3 very, very significant deaths for me. I've changed job twice. Like, it's all been a bit rough. And one of my gunsmiths said to me once, he goes, if you want your marriage to last, you better spend as much on the ring as you do on one of your rifles.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I'm like, bro, that's a high bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't say that to me, man. But You know me, like I have to do everything. I got to do everything right. You start with overkill, then you work backwards.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I got this Zambian emerald, right? Huge fucking thing, and it was perfect. Like, this emerald was ethically sourced from Zambia. There was all the testing and certification and paperwork that came with the stone. And that emerald had like gone to, and it had never been mounted in a ring, right? It had gone from Zambia to England to Israel to Australia, and then it sat in a safe somewhere until this guy died, and then it went up for auction, and you know, I got the stone. I got it for cheap out of a deceased estate. Well, cheap.
Yeah.
Cheap for a giant emerald, you know, like it's still a lot of money. And then, you know, I'm holding on to this stone for ages, and I'm like, I want to propose, I want to propose, I want to propose, I want to make it happen. And
So how long ago did you get this stone?
2-3 years.
Oh wow.
First year of COVID, or just before COVID.
Awesome.
But you know, between like I moved house, I changed job, I like, you know, there was deaths, and I'm miserable, and I'm gaining weight and all this stuff.
And was that the purpose of the stone? Was that what you wanted to do when you originally bought it? Okay.
But everybody does gold and diamonds. It's the most basic bitch thing to do. It's not ethical, and it's just one of those like, and you're falling for a fucking scam.
Yeah.
Right? The beer, like, diamonds are such a common stone.
Yeah.
They're so common. But De Beers just holds all of them in a vault in London, only releases a tiny handful at a time, sells them at a fucking markup, and then everybody's a sucker from an ad campaign from the 50s of diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Yeah.
That's all she wrote. And you get the most unimaginative, overly expensive rings. And, bro, that's not me. I'm not that conventional. Fuck that. And my woman's too beautiful to have something basic on her hand. So, you know, I got this emerald. Her, you know, favorite color is green. We're going for a big green emerald. And I'm talking to, I spoke to something like 40 fucking jewelers over 4 years. And all of these jewelers are like, oh, you know, emeralds can be a little bit soft, and emeralds are super expensive. Why don't you get a green sapphire? I'm like, why don't you suck my dick? I don't want a green sapphire. I'm getting a sapphire. It's going to be a blue sapphire or a white sapphire. I'm not getting a green. I'm going to get an emerald, you know? And so I've got this stone, and I just can't get the money together to make it happen. And I find that there is a gemstone guy in Rouse Hill that has sapphires. And, you know, I was doing some reading about, like, because I've designed the ring, right? I drew it up, and I worked on it over the course of these years. I'd have a little design, and I'd modify it over the years, because I'd look at it and I'm like, it's a little bit shit now. I'm going to change it this way. And then I'd look at it again. It's a little bit shit. I'm going to do it this way. And, you know, I'm researching gems to death. I'm reading about all the precious stones. I'm reading about, like, art styles for rings, and what's brutalist, and what's Art Nouveau, and what's this and what's that. And, you know, I'm looking at all these different motifs and things that Laura likes. And, you know, we walk past a jeweler, and Laura's like, oh, that's kind of nice. And I'm like, come back, take a photo. And, you know, I'm working with it. And eventually I kind of get this design, and I need a white stone on the side. And I really don't want to do a diamond. And I'm like, well, you know, white sapphires almost as hard as diamonds, almost have the clarity of diamonds. But where Laura's family are from, where Laura is from is, like, it's known as the Sapphire City. That city was formed out of sapphire mining, and there's no more sapphires, but that's the legacy of the city. Nice. So there's this guy in Rouse Hill, and he sells sapphires and gems and precious stones and stuff like that. So I'm talking to him, and I'm like, hey, can you hook me up with, like, white sapphires? And he's like, yeah, like, do you want one? I'm like, can you get 6? Like, and he's like, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, man. Like, I gotta do that. I got to do this properly. And I got quotas to make. I got to make sure this is as expensive as my rifle. And you know, I'm like going to Canberra to talk to jewelers, and you know, I'm getting quotes from like $2,000 to 25 grand, and it all looks the same. Why is the cost so different? And you know, so I'm learning all about that process, and eventually I paid off a loan. And once I paid off a loan, all of a sudden, like, I had all my money back. And so I'm like, that's it. I'm making this ring happen. And this ring is happening. Like, I'm doing it now. Yeah. And so I found this jeweler, and the jeweler was a storyteller, and that's how I knew I had it. Yeah. Like, this was the guy. Yeah. So I rocked up to this jeweler, and I've been sending him emails, and he's been emailing me back, and we've been working it out. And I'm sitting in his office, and it's mad. He's got the most beautiful things that he's designed behind like bulletproof glass in his walls. He's like, you know, I made these and I don't ever want to sell them. And that sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, can you tell me about yourself? And he goes, my great-grandfather was a jeweler in Italy. And he's an older man. He's like, my great-grandfather was a jeweler.
So 18 fucking...
Whatever, yeah.
50 even,
And he goes, and, you know, my grandfather learned from him and then started selling to royalty and then started selling to, like, and then they became luxury. And then my father learned from him from these massive chains in Italy, and then I learned from my father, and then you know, I met my wife. My wife wanted to try a different part of the world, and we moved to Australia. This is the only thing I know. You know, a bank won't give me a loan to bring my family's business here because in Australia it doesn't have name recognition, but in Europe it has name recognition. So he's like, I bought a franchise. I'm going to work the franchise, and then once this is set up and it's perfect and it's making money and all this stuff, then I'm going to open up my own place. And I'm like, this man is 4th, 5th generation, whatever. Like, this is the guy.
Yeah.
And so I go, this is my design. And he goes, we have to tweak it. And I'm like, why? And he goes, oh, because structurally this will break, blah, 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 blah. And so he pulls out like a CAD file, whatever system, and he designs it on a 3D modeling thing in front of me.
Well.
And he goes, this is going to be the design for you, but it's also going to be the mold. And we're going to make it like solid platinum and all this stuff. And he goes, the problem is, he goes, this we can do in a few weeks. He goes, finding an emerald like the one you want and finding sapphires like the one you want, that is going to take some time. He goes, the sapphires we can do, but finding an emerald like what you want is going to be hard. And I just like, I'm reaching into my pocket and I'm like, funny you say that. Here's the sapphires. Sorry. And here's the emerald.
Yeah.
And he's like, you kidding me? And I'm like, tell me if it's gonna work. And he pulls them out and he's got all the gadgets and shit. And he's like, these are beautiful. And I went, thank you. And he goes, do you have the paperwork? And I went, yeah, I do, but it's in the car. And he goes, don't worry about it. Like, it's whatever.
That's crazy. Do you have the paperwork?
Yeah.
This motherfucker stole it. Hey, no way this motherfucker had this.
And so like, you know, we get the design, he gives me a quote, and then we get up and he goes, okay, so when we start, you pay 10%. And then when it's done in like 8 to 10 weeks, then you have to pay the rest. And I'm like, can I pay it all now?
Yeah.
And he goes, what? Why? And I went, I have the money now. I trust your work. I'm going to pay you now. You let me know if you need more money.
Yeah. What a flex, eh?
And he sat there and he goes, no, we can't do that. And I'm like, I really don't want to hold on to this money. Let me like give you let me pay you for this ring. I want it done. I need it done.
Yeah, otherwise my rifle's looking pretty itchy.
Yeah, otherwise I'm starting a new project. Like, and he sat there and he goes, we can't, because if you pay it in full, it'll actually close the entry in our accounting system. Literally no one has ever paid upfront all the money. And I went, can I pay 90%?
Yeah.
And he's like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, let me pay 95%. Let me like
take it, yeah.
Let me pay it so when you call me and go, it's done, you only owe us a 3-digit figure.
Yeah.
Like, just instead of a 4 or 5-digit figure. Like,
yeah.
And yeah, so that's the way we did it. And so when I rocked up to collect the ring, you know, she's like, oh, you owe this much money. And I'm like, the hell I do. Here is the receipt on my phone. I owe you this much left. And she's like, but we never do it that way. And I'm like, you did it this time. And she's like, but it's not in our system. And I'm like, it was sorted through email with the owner. And it turns out the woman I was talking to was his wife, and she's mad because she does all these books. And she's like, this motherfucker doesn't put it, he needs to put it through the business, not through his like you can't sort it out of a text. And I'm like, he's a wog, I'm a wog, we communicate, you know, like we're on the same wavelength. So I get this stone and it's killing me because, you know, my wife is everything. And, you know, and I swear to God, she knew the second I picked up the ring. And she's like, you got that ring? And I went, yeah. And she's like, don't give it to me. And I went, you're taking the ring.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I want to be swept off my feet. I want it to be beautiful. I want this. I want that. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there.
How did she have that? Did you tell her like that's what you were doing? Like, how did she know? Like,
bro, she's smarter than I am.
Yeah.
We've already established that she's a super nerd,
Okay.
and I'm passionate about everything, and I'm passionate about her, and she just knew.
Yeah.
And so you know, I swear to God, so she told me she got the phone call that she'd been accepted for this job, and it'd been a 2-year application process.
Wow.
That she got the security clearances, she'd aced everything, and now she's been accepted. You're going away at the end of January. And she sat there and she goes, look, I'm going to be gone for months. And like, I've always wanted to get married, like in an elopement, you know? I didn't want the big affair. I'm like, it's just you and me, pick any witness, make them both your sister. I don't care. But I just want us to be married, and we can do a party some other time. If we do a big party, it's going to be Ben-Hur. I want fire. I want horses. Like, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But, like, I want drummers. Drummers are happening.
Yeah.
But, like, I sat there, I'm like, but if we're not doing that, you know, I just want us. I don't want anybody else. And she always said no, right? Her parents are divorced. Weddings have, like, marriage is a little bit tainted, but the flip side to that is she's like, I want to celebrate love with love. If we're going to get married and I want to get married to you, I want to celebrate in front of all the people I love. I want them all there. And that's kind of where we got to. She's like, she doesn't want to be married, but if she's going to marry me and she's happy to do it, then she wants the party.
Yeah.
And I need her to be my wife. So like, I'm going to have to do the party.
Yeah.
And that's why we're both happy. But when she got this gig and she's like, I'm going to be gone for months, why don't we just run away and have like a private little elopement in January? So that way we're legally married. And then, you know, when life settles down, she's in the new job, I've gotten a promotion, we've got some money, then we'll do the big party. And then we'll honeymoon in Cuba and we'll do whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do it. But if we're going to do that, if we're going to jump the gun and just get married, can you at least let me propose to you? Do you have any idea how much money and blood and time and sweat and research went into this ring? Like, and if we're gonna go to your family over Christmas and tell them that we're getting married and we want you to be a part of it, like, I need to have given you that ring before we do that.
Yeah.
Because you can't get there, say, we're getting married, everybody get excited. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks before the wedding, you go, oh yeah, Adam gave me an engagement ring. Nobody cares anymore. It's not important. So I'm like, let me do it first. And she's like, oh, did you have plans? And I'm like, yeah, I'd already planned out the proposal. Everything was already set. I had people booking flights for this proposal. Like, it was done. So, but that proposal was after Christmas. Fucks up our plans. So I'd already planned on spoiling her for Christmas. We were going to go away for a weekend. Covered everything. And I'm like, look, let's... And that's the red herring. She's going to think that whole weekend I'm proposing to her.
Yeah.
This is just your Christmas present. Proposal will come when you least expect it.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, it has to be that now. You know, the red herring has to be the actual proposal. And the whole time leading up to that red herring, legit every day I'm asking, can I propose to you now? She's walking around in her gym gear around the house. She's like, oh babe, I made you a coffee, and I'm reaching for the ring, and she's like, don't you? She Saturday morning comes around. We wake up and, like, you know, another beautiful day. Any day that I wake up with my wife is a beautiful day, and she's like, oh, you know, do you want banana pancakes? And I'm like,
give me 1 sec.
I'm like, maybe 2 things on this earth would make me happier than banana pancakes right now. And she's like, yeah, all right, I'll start making them. She makes banana pancakes. I walk into the kitchen. She's already made a coffee. Banana pancakes are like half done. And I'm like, can I propose to you now? And she's like, don't you fucking dare. And I'm like, please, this is the moment. I am so, like, I'm radiating with love. Like, I've got to do this when the passion is right. And she's like, you better hold on to it. So anyway, I propose. And then, you know, literally the day after the proposal, I'm driving up to work at her parents' place. And so I work for a little bit, and then she comes up to see me after that. We do Christmas. And then, like, you know, when I'm working for her dad, he doesn't eat. So there is no healthy meal and there's no unhealthy meal. You wake up, you have a coffee, like you just have a black coffee on the porch like a man with no food.
Yeah.
You work until sundown, and then you just eat everything. Just eat your 3,500 calories right now, one meal. It doesn't matter what it is. We'll do frozen fish. We'll do beetroot salad. You're just going to eat 4 cold sausages, just like cook some eggs, just eat it all. Eat everything at once at the evening. Yeah. And then you're going to do the same dance tomorrow. You're going to wake up, you're going to have a black coffee, you're going to work till sundown. And this was right after like 6 months of straight training. And so I'm like flexing in the bathroom going, bro, the dirty bulk is real. And then we like left the work on that farm and we went to go to the other farm where the mum is. And then it's in Christmas mode. There's nothing offered that isn't alcoholic, sugary, or full of fat. Yeah. And it's just that for a straight like 3 weeks. Yeah. It's awful. Like, and then I come back and when or whatever it is, I proposed on like the 10th or the 11th, and then I worked until Christmas Day, and then until like for the next 2 weeks, it was straight just awful food and all the alcohol. And then we come back from her mum's place, we're back at home, and now we're just in wedding mode. Wedding's in 3 weeks. So my cousins fly up from Melbourne, and my cousin, one of those cousins is turning 18. Yeah. And I turned to him and I'm like, bro, what do you want to do for your 18th? You tell me. I don't care what it is. I'm making it happen. Almost nothing's off the table. Yeah. Like you tell me, I'll make it happen. Yeah. And he sat there and he goes, bro, can you teach me how to shoot? Can we do a workout? And like, can we smoke a cigar and play some cards? And I'm like, you kidding me?
Yeah, that sounds amazing, bro.
That's it.
Honestly.
That's every second or third Saturday. Like, let's do that. I'll hook it up. We'll do a barbecue. We'll make a day of it. We'll wake up, do a workout, go to the gun range, come back.
What do you want to do? And he's like, can I be you? For one day, so can I be you?
Work out, gun range, come back, set up a barbecue, have a couple drinks. Right? We'll have a mad feed, and then after that, I bought a $400 cognac to celebrate my wedding, and they're like, oh, look, I called my missus. I'm like, do you mind if I crack the cognac? And she's like, baby, realistically, you're the only one that's going to appreciate it. Drink it whenever. And like, okay, cool, crack the cognac. Get the cigars. I'm like, do you know how to smoke a cigar? He goes, no. And I'm like, all right. So I start teaching him about cigars. I'm like, do you know how to drink this? He goes, no. And I'm like, then you're not going to drink this. I'm going to pour you something else. and so, I pour him something else. I explain to him the drink. I explain to him the cigar. And I'm like, now enjoy it. And I swear to God, this kid who's about to turn 18 just goes, take a photo. I just want to feel like Al Capone. And I'm like, bro, Al Capone was never caught wearing sweatpants. Go inside and train out of your trackies. Get out of your trackies if you want to look like Al Capone. Yeah. And so and then we start playing some cards. We're drinking. We're having a smoke. It's been a killer day. And he goes like, Adam, was this your 18th? And I went, almost. There's 2 things missing from your 18th to my 18th because they're real similar. And he goes, what did you do on your 18th? And I'm like, put it this way, man, there's no way to tell you without me sounding like a braggart. Yeah. There's no way to tell you what happened on my 18th without it seeming bullshit or without it seeming like I'm trying to flex. So I'm not going to tell you, but use your imagination. And one of those things I will not do to you. Just
well put.
And so he had a mad time, and then we had wedding, and right after the wedding there was a ginormous and so our wedding I had John, Mitch and Pat, John Canoni is the minister of the church that Mitch spends a lot of time in. Okay. John's also the knife maker that Mitch was learning under.
Oh, yeah.
John's, John and I are now like really good mates. And so I turned to John and I'm like, look, I need a celebrant. We really badly need a celebrant, and you're a close friend of mine. I would really love it if you could wed us, but also I want you to talk about love. Yeah. You can talk about Big G. Yeah. And I would really appreciate it if you don't talk about Big J. Everybody there believes in God, but not everybody's a big fan of the J. The G good, J bad. Yeah. But I'm a big believer in love being the answer. Yeah. I want you to talk about love. And he went, it would be an honor for me to wed you guys. And I'm like, how much money do you want? I'll give you whatever you want. And he's like, no. Like, this is, like, you're a close friend of mine. Laura's a wonderful woman. Like, it would be an honor to wed you guys.
Awesome.
So we found a private spot in the mountains. That's just the most scenic place. And we told her parents, her sisters, my roommate, and 3 of my cousins, and one friend from uni, and that one friend is my longest serving friend.
Nice.
And she has witnessed me from being a clean skin, mohawk wearing psychopath from Guildford all the way to what I am now.
Yeah, nice.
She's been the whole way, and so she was there with her baby girls, and I'd do fucking anything for her baby girls. I love her baby girls, and yeah, that was it. That was our whole wedding party, you know. That was everybody. And so after we did this ceremony, we went to this incredible dinner, and sometimes you got to do things a little bit fancy, so it was a real high-end place, and it was fantastic. And then for that whole week after that, Laura and I just spent like partying on a beach resort. So we did the Christmas New Year's party. And then we did the 2 weeks of straight party leading up to this 18th.
Yeah.
And then we did the wedding. And then we did another straight week of party. And then Laura went off to this new job. And literally the next day, my mate goes, "You're fighting at the end of the year. Let's go to gym." And I went, like... I think I've put back on the weight. My lungs are gone. My legs aren't working, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're married. We're gonna do a big party. All of you boys that I taught, I want to invite.
Awesome.
Because I'm mad proud of every single one of you, all the different directions that your lives have taken in, but you all really made something of yourselves. And you know, no one's really figured it out.
Yeah.
Straight up,
Yeah.
I bet you there's a few dozen people out of the 8 billion on the earth that straight out figured it out.
Yeah.
That's not us.
Yeah. I was actually, sorry to cut you off, but I was actually talking to Seth today on the phone, and he's telling me some stuff. We're just trying to work out some stuff together, you know, personal issues and stuff. And then I had my little ramble, my rant, and then I ended it with, "But honestly, I have no idea." He's like, "Neither. I'm glad you said."
Yeah.
I've got no idea.
But you know, like you boys are all acutely aware. You don't need to be reminded that your life could have taken a drastically different turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mad proud of all of you guys. So I want you all get an invite, and you know, I've got some mates who are ex shitheads that get an invite as well. And there's not a lot of my family coming because there's not a lot of my family left.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be probably up in the farm, up in the countryside somewhere. So you know, logistically that might be a bit tricky, but it's kind of one of those. Yeah, if I've only got 30 or 40 people coming and she's got a couple hundred, then really we've got to do it their way. So,
I speak for all of us boys, and we say we'll be there. And I thank you for the words, because we want to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of those, like, it's a couple of years from now, because I want to go hunt a buffalo. I want to have another cage fight. My missus wants to travel, and we want to buy a house, and it's one of those, like, you know, we can make most of that happen over the next couple of years, but that really means that the big wedding where everybody gets to be a part of the celebration probably isn't coming for that next couple of years. But you know, I still get to wake up every morning and she's still my wife. So
yeah.
That's kind of that's what I want, you know.
Well, that's awesome. I love the story. Answer, right? It's a full love story. Yeah, I love it.
The answer. Yeah. That's the thing with Cornel West. So I'm not going to go into the full detail with Cornel West. But you know how when you're a kid in school, or when you're a small child, or you're being naughty, or you're a teenager, and you hear these phrases that sound like empty platitudes that just don't mean anything to you because they don't mean anything to that other person. You know when someone tells you that violence isn't an answer, but they're full of shit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
they don't buy that because sometimes violence is the answer, but they have to
It's
tell you that
literally how
because
our society is built.
that's socially acceptable.
Well, that's society. Like when you fuck up, not only do you have to deal with someone wanting to punch your head in, if you fuck up enough, you have to deal with the police coming and using force.
Round 1, round 2.
Yeah.
But you know, you hear them say that, well, love is the strongest force on the earth. And I'm like, you read that in a self-help book. Like, you don't buy that. You need to be told that. And because you don't buy it, you don't have the right to tell me that. And Cornel West, being a theologian, being a philosopher, being a politicist, being whatever, being 1,000 things, being one of the most well-read and most spiritually attuned men that you could listen to, he talks like a Baptist preacher, and he talks almost in rhyme and in parable, and it's beautiful to listen to. But when he says that love is the answer, it's with so much fire and passion. You just buy it. You just he means every word of that with his fucking soul when he says it, that love is the answer. And it was the funniest thing, because when I was a lunatic, that friend that came to the wedding that, you know, knew me from back in the day, when we were in uni, she's like, you need to listen to Cornel West. You need to listen to his lectures because you're an intelligent person and you'll enjoy what he has to say. And, you know, I'm a storyteller. Cornel West is a storyteller, and he's getting all invigorated and impassioned. And he's like, love is the answer. You got to listen to Curtis Mayfield and blah, 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 and Marvin Gaye. And, you know, it's the food of the soul, and it riches through and it shines bright and it touches everyone around you and blah, blah, blah. And you're feeling it, and then the lecture ends, and you're back to being mad and feral, and you're like, yeah, love is the answer, but where the fuck is my love? How come my parents don't fucking love me? How come I don't have any goddamn friends that last longer than 3 months in my circle? Like,
Yeah.
and then you know, it kind of fades away. I've listened to the lectures, and then you forget about it. Life goes on. You play a new video game, and you get a new tattoo, and then I get my dog. And then things change. For the first time in my life, I have experienced unconditional love with the rehabilitation of this dog. That is the first time. And you know, I am still skeptical about unconditional love with human beings, but at least I knew it was real with the dog. And I'm listening to Cornel West again. I rediscover him because my favorite hip hop artists are listening to talking about Cornel West, and he's doing bits on their albums and that sort of thing. And so I listened to a bunch of his lectures, and now I'm much more tame because I'm almost like, you know, rehabbing the dog is rehabbing me. If I am even a little bit angry or a little bit impulsive, that dog's jumping.
Yeah.
And so I got to check myself, because that's how I check the dog.
Yeah.
And then the dog checks me, because if something like that, so many times when I couldn't protect myself, that dog was on me. That dog was looking after me. Like, and I'm not talking about like fights. I'm talking about like I had a fever that literally had me losing consciousness on a bus. Like, it was bad, and I came back, and I collapsed in the house, and I was just being told that, like, when I collapsed, my dog was proper standing over me, just ready to lose his fucking mind at anybody that came close. And they all just sat there, and I'm being told after the fact that, like, for a while they were talking about getting an ambulance for me, but then they're going, fuck, we just don't know how we're going to get around this dog. This dog's not letting anybody come near you now that you're hurt. You know,
That's awesome.
But you know, I'm listening to Cornel West, and he's talking about love is the answer, and I'm like, yeah, love is the answer. It's between me and the dog. And then he's talking about looking after your brothers and being your brother's keeper and looking after a community, and you know, before you can check anything in the day, you got to ask yourself if that woman that's got your back, you know, is she happy? Is she fulfilled? Is she 10 foot tall and bulletproof? Like, you know, where's my kid? Has my kid done his homework? Is my kid safe? Is my kid happy? Is my kid learning something new? Like, is my kid gonna be a good man when he grows up? And then once you've done that, then you can like check yourself. And so I'm listening to these talks, and I can't extrapolate it to a person. It's just me and the dog, you know? And then I meet my missus, and the dog loves her. And I've never seen him attach to someone other than me than the way he did to her. And I'm like, bro, the dog is the sign. On a tangent, if I ever go to buy a house and my dog refuses to enter the front steps of that house, that house is off the list. I'm like, I get that that's a ridiculous superstition that happens in horror films, but straight up, I trust the instincts of that. If that animal will not go near that house is fucking cursed, and I'm not stepping foot. But you know, I meet my woman, and she's telling me, especially in the first couple of years, even I was mellowed from the dog, and then like a couple of my friends that knew me before the dog, they're telling her stories, and she's like, you know, I just don't know that guy, and they're like, yeah, he hasn't made an appearance in a little while. We're thankful for that. Like, he was more animal than the dog was. Like, let's be like, and but you know, I meet the woman, and she's telling me that for like the first couple of years, she can't complain about nothing to me. She's telling me like for the first like 2 years that we were together, she couldn't say shit about a period or a broken toe or anything like that. She's like, if I said anything, you'd just be like, yo, I got stabbed and I walked that off. Like, and she's like, I just couldn't, I just couldn't compare, like, nothing that happened to me could compare to an ass kicking that you got when you were 9. And it was just like, and I wasn't cruel about it. I'm not cruel to her saying you can't feel pain. But like, but it had always, like, I'm trying to push you, because I know I can survive this, and I respect you and I love you, and because I respect you and I love you, you can do whatever I can do. But if this really awful thing happened to me and I walked it off, you can fucking walk it off. Like, and so she sat there and she's like, man, for those first couple years, and you know, I had that moment of like, she gonna be my wife, and I guess that's when that penny dropped. Of like, I rediscover Cornel West again, and I hear him just go, love is the answer, man. You let it reverberate through your soul and come through your words and enter your heart and your mind, and shape everything and every action and everything that you do, every animal that you help, every man that you're nice to. Justice is just love displayed publicly, and all of a sudden I'm listening to the words, and when he talks, I see my wife's face, you know, and all of a sudden it's real, you know. And it's one of those things of like, love is the answer. And I was explaining this to a mate of mine, because he was dealing with some dark times last year, and the consequence of those dark times that he lost his missus of like 7 years. She just went, nah, I've had enough of your struggles, I'm out. And
it's a sad fact, but
like, look, some people don't have the fortitude for it, and I can't hold you up if I can't hold me up, and that's just how it goes sometimes. And he's a big believer in love, and he was talking about getting a Cupid tattoo and all that sort of thing. And I was telling him, I'm like, bro, love is the answer. You've got to listen to this dude, Cornel West. You have to listen to Dr. Cornel West. You just find him, listen to anything. Even if he wants to talk about politics or race, it is always going to come back to love. If he wants to talk about religion, it's coming back to love. He's talking about philosophy and the Socratic question, it's coming back to love. You got to listen to it. And I sat there and I was like, but that's the best thing. Like, I remember getting suspended in year 7 and having a teacher just go, you know that love is the answer, and then she just walked out of the room.
Pitch.
Love is the answer. That kid threw a rock at my head. Fuck him. And like, you just don't buy it. But you know what I bought? I bought my cousins sitting down with me, and they're telling me a story. And it is the most mundane story ever. They're talking about Jim. They're talking about a girl that they took home and they can't show their parents because she's not Turkish. And look, they're talking about a car. They're talking about whatever. And it is the most intense life or death story ever. And it'll have the most random moral to the story. And it'll be ingrained in me. And they'll basically, what they've done is they've sat down with their littlest cousin and they've just talked some mad shit to him. And then they've got up and left to have a smoke or go to gym. And in hindsight, it's hilarious, because now I do this with people. But as a kid, I'm sitting there going, man, that was some real shit. My cousins just sat down with me for some real shit. And like, because it just came through, man. You hold on to my words the way I'm holding on to their words, the way Cornel West is teaching people.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But it's that thing. It's like, it's that love is the answer thing. And you know, Laura's sisters, like one of them's a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about, she genuinely cares about every single kid, and she wants the best outcome for every single kid, and she wants them to be better human beings and be the best people that they can be. And I'm sitting there going, fucking love is the answer, baby. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And Laura's just like, Adam, stop being a stop being a smartass. And I'm like, I believe it. And she's like, I know you believe it, but I know what you're doing. Like, it's just...
yeah. That's cool. That's awesome, bro. I haven't even had the pleasure of properly meeting Laura. I did briefly at your place, but I'd like to. It's not fucking too long of a wait now to go wait for your actual wedding celebration.
No. Well, look,
we'll spend some more time.
When she gets back, it'll be probably June, and we're gonna move house. Once we set up, we'll definitely make something happen.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah. Did you say when you said you came back? Did you say you were moving?
Yeah, we're moving house.
Yeah.
So
okay.
we're just gonna go wherever the military tells us to go, or wherever intelligence tells us to go, or wherever DFAT tells us to go, whatever it is. So like, you know, it's probably gonna be Sydney based or Toowoomba or whatever. But that'll be all right. We'll move house and then you know we'll just try to make something happen. So
yeah.
But it'd be great and come meet her.
Yeah, I'm excited. I tell you, I did want to I was going to wrap this up, but I need to know the answer to a couple more things.
I feel like we've been going, like, I'm happy to keep going, but it's also been a couple hours.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer, all right? It's a little bit longer. When you went and...
break it into two parts. Part 1 podcast, part 2 podcast.
Oh, there'll be more than 2 parts. Yeah, trust me. It could go on forever. I just want to know, when you were away over this holiday doing work on the farm, what type of stuff were you up to?
So we were subdividing a 130-acre paddock into 4 paddocks.
Wow.
We were installing feed troughs into, like, there was one paddock into the one that needed to be subdivided, and then we were moving the other feed troughs across the other paddocks. So each feed trough is like 1 to 1.5 ton. So, you know, get GPS coordinates, break up one paddock into 4 paddocks, start driving fence posts, dig trenches, do some rudimentary plumbing and start laying some pipes and that sort of thing, and install the dam or the feed trough and try to hook up that system. Once we lay down all the poles to subdivide the farm and turn it into fences and barbed wire electrify the fence or barbed wire the fence and whatever. And then same thing when he's like, oh, Adam, you ever driven a bobcat? And I'm like, bro, I'm a fighter out of Guildford. We don't have bobcats. we got sheep. We got Rexies. Like we got and
I can see you in a bobcat.
And he sat there and he's like, you're gonna be an expert today. You gotta pick either the bobcat or the tractor. And I was like, oh, cool. So you know, move feed trough from here to there and you know, let's go. We're gonna muster all the cows out of there. We've only got this many sheep left because we've moved the rest out of them. So can you tell me if any of those sheep are fly blown? All right, pick up some of them sheep and bring it over here. And all right, cool. We got to install a stables for horses. And I'm like, all right, cool. And he goes, yeah, this is for another business, but it's on our property and we're helping out and all that sort of thing because my stepmother-in-law has a therapy business and she uses horses and all that sort of thing. And he's like, yeah, we got to set up a stables for it. So we got to grade the earth and then we've got to build the stables. We got to build the walls, set up the gates, all that sort of thing. And just everything just takes forever.
Farm life, man.
Yeah. And you start one job and then 5 more jobs come and that's just been how it was for everything. So we're sitting there and he's like, oh fuck, we left this bit open and now a sheep's got into there. Oh fuck, there's snakes over that way. Oh okay, we've got to move the cows out of here. Oh, we got to fix this fence. Oh, we got to clean this dam. Oh, we got to drain this. Oh, actually go over that way, give me a coordinate and we could potentially use this one for later. Oh, we got to go check, you know, sorghum crop and see if pigs have torn it all up. And it was just like, it was just every day.
Yeah.
And especially because like I was still supposed to be working my day job. But my day job's flexible. I don't care when it's happened so long as it happens, but it's like we'd finish one day of work And he's like, all right, do you have to work tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, I've just got to do a couple of hours tomorrow. And he goes, all right, in the morning, can you take the Amarok and meet me on the farm? And I went, like,
Yeah.
but I know you start at sunup. Like,
Yeah.
just...
Yeah.
No,
That's awesome, but was it amazing?
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And you really can't half-ass being a farmer. You can't half commit.
Yeah.
It's just so much work. Everything is so physically demanding. Even really basic stuff where he's like, before we get this bit of heavy machinery from this paddock to this paddock, we have to grade the road first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, that's cool. It's 1 step, then it's 2 step. And then we start the job. And he's like, well, in order to grade the ground, we have to go do this. So go get this. Then we'll do this. Then we'll do the road. Then we'll move the machine. And then we can start the job that we like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so awesome. I got a couple of mates that are farmers, and fuck, man, I respect them. They just work so fucking hard, bro, all day.
Pruning olive trees. That was another one. He goes, we've got 60 acres of olive trees. And there is a batch of 60 individual trees, or 40 acres, and there was a batch of like 60 individual trees. He goes, these trees we're going to package to move the tree. And he's like, so we need to trim all of them into a packageable size. And he's like, but I just don't know when we're going to get the time. And he's like, Adam, are you at a loose end? And I went, not. I'm literally never at a loose end. Because if we run out of things to do, I'm shooting. Like, that's... Yeah. And then I'm gone, and I'm...
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, well, if you could get the trees done. And I went, by myself. He goes, yeah, grab a beer and a knife, you'll make it work. And that's literally like what I did. I'm walking around with a knife and a beer, and I'm pruning and chopping trees. And
Yeah, awesome. Fuck yeah, sounds like you've had a pretty amazing start to the year.
Yeah.
Honestly.
This year, pretty fantastic. It was a pretty good end to last year. Just from that MMA in Melbourne leading into working on the farm. And it was a really fun first chunk of this year, but it was a,
tremendous.
Tell you what, getting back to the gym's been rough. And especially because it's like they're sitting there going, yeah, currently you're heavyweights, just let's cut you down to light heavy. You could fight at middleweight, but you should go down to welterweight. I'm like, I'm not going down to welterweight. I'm fighting at light heavy or middleweight. You're just going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, I'd prefer light heavy, but I understand that at middleweight, I've got like I'm at the same height with about the same reach and all that sort of shit. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. It's going to take a couple months for my body to kind of remember what to do and to get back. Like my recovery at the moment is a little bit stifled, and I know it's because of the calorie deficit, so I've got to be a bit more smart with my meal prep, but that's just the process. It's going to be just a couple of weeks of tweaking or a couple months of tweaking, and you can't cheat the time. The time has to be put in to make it work. So I got it working last year before I took off to the farm. I'll get it working again. I'll probably get it working by the time that April happens. And at that point, hopefully I'll be back at the weight I was last December, if not lighter. And then, the next 6 months following April would just be continue training, continue cutting, try to get to the weight I want, and then have a fight.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'm really keen. That'll be great. So we'll see what happens with that.
Fuck yeah. All right, well, I think that you've definitely left everyone listening, and I appreciate everyone who has listening to make it to the end of the episode. I always do appreciate it. You've left a lot of curiosity in a lot of people.
Man,
definitely.
There's so many more things we could have got into. So many more stories.
I can feel the curiosity just grasp on everyone's brains right now. And then in the future episode, we'll talk about what we talked about personally on the first couple ones. The life you lived in order to get the experience and knowledge you have with self-defense and fighting in general. The time you spent in uni, I think it was. Is that where you did the psychology uni?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't even end up getting in. Did I get into that story today about how I got into my firearms license? I know I told it today.
No, not to me.
Oh, there's so much we can do.
Oh, plenty. The knife making. There's so much I'd like to talk about, but it's beautiful because it saves us for part 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, backed out. Beautiful. Plenty of stuff.
The whole piece. It's gonna be so.
It's a good one, bro. I love the back. It's the best.
Yeah. I'm hoping I can do the outline in one full day. That's what I'm hoping.
You will, 100%.
So
you'll stick through the pain. That's the most important thing.
Well,
yeah.
it's less the pain, and it's more about when your body's just had enough. When your body starts to get inflamed and it starts to weep, and you're like, look, it's not even about pain anymore. We can't put ink in your skin. That's what we're calling it, you know. And I'm just like, I know it's gonna hurt because there's gonna be so much detail going down my spine, or fuck my kidney area. But like, you know, let's see if I can get the outline done at once. Then it just means over the next couple of years, it's just like, oh, can we just do a 3-hour session? Just a 3-hour session, do some shading.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it'll look patchy for a little bit, but like, I would rather do it that way where you know, when you get the itch for another tattoo, I get the itch. I'm a work in progress. Here's 4 hours. Let's make it happen. Yeah. Eventually it'll be done. It'll be done before I know it, but I don't want to try and brute force it and do it all in 1 or 2 sessions, because that'd be ludicrously expensive. It'd be really inconvenient and painful. And you know, I'm doing it in Australia. I'm doing it in Newtown. It's gonna be expensive, and I get that I could go to Bali or Thailand, but I've had one artist do everything else. She's heard about plans for my back for years, since I first was getting tattoos. Like, I feel like I disrespect her by not doing it. And I know she'd tell me to my face that she doesn't care, but it's, you know, it's a community thing. You've invested in me. I've invested in you. Like, let's do the big piece together. Let's do it right. Let's spend the money. Let's make it happen. So
yeah, beautiful. All right, well, I'm excited. I do. Camera just died facing me, so everyone's watching is listening to me while they're watching you right now.
Perfect.
But it was a great time to wrap up the episode. I really appreciate you coming over. Thank you for sitting down.
Beautiful. Thanks for the session. I loved it.
Beautiful. It's a wrap.
Shawty catch a vibe, yeah, I had to put her on. Bought a 2-seater, yeah, we heading for the sun. Shawty got my high, I ain't tripping for the funds. Yeah, I won't start, I ain't tripping, I'm a stunt.